Sorry about that, doppelganger. To answer your question, no. Right as you said that, I was hitting the button that says "Go Live?" ? And so now, as far as I know, we are live to the world. And to us, that means somewhere between like 20 and 40 people. I guess that is our world. So look, folks, I thought long and hard today about a song to play, and the only thing that kept coming to mind was the one I'm about to play. I've never played this song in my life, but I don't know. We'll see what we get into and what we talk about here in a second, but with what's going on right now, it just seemed appropriate. So, well, I came upon a child of God. He was walking along the road, and I asked him, tell me, where are you going? This is what he told me. Said, I'm going way down to Yaskar's farm. Gonna join in a rock and roll band. Gonna get back to the land, set my soul free. We are stardust, we are golden. We're a billion-year-old carbon, and we've got to get ourselves back to the garden. Well, may I walk beside you? I've come to lose my smog, and I feel like I'm a cog in something turning. And maybe it's the time of the end. Yeah, maybe it's the time of man. I don't know who I am, but life is for learning. We are stardust, we are golden. We're a billion-year-old carbon, and we've got to get ourselves back to the garden. By the time we got to Woodstock, we were 500,000 strong, and everywhere was a song and a celebration. And I dreamed I saw the bomber death planes riding shotgun in the sky, bursting into butterflies above the nation. Everybody, we are stardust, we are golden. We're a billion-year-old carbon, and we got to get ourselves back to the garden. I will work on the ending and have that out to you next week. Oh, thanks, man. There was even a fucking applause. I can't believe it. It's been a while since I've heard that. But that was the reason I played that will become apparent as we go on. It's because of the chorus. And Christian, yeah, tell with it. I'll just tell you all the truth. Yes, I'm a Christian. I'm a skeptical Christian. That means that I do think that maybe we are stardust. Maybe we're golden. Maybe we're a billion-year-old carbon. And maybe we just need to get ourselves back to the garden. So, you know, anyway. Hey, Britt, I didn't even think you were going to show up today. I know it was a busy day for you. I'm going to launch right into this and say, how about them Paris Accords?
Excuse me, I've got my mouth full right now.
No hurry. And I think that Zero Cool, I've actually pumped him up pre-show. Because to me, Zero Cool is like he's like my guy behind my back that you don't really notice there, but when you don't see him coming, he lays you out with a right hook. And I mean figuratively. And I kind of want...
If you can't see a large rhino behind anybody before you get a right hook, you apparently are blind.
Yeah, well, while the Britisher is chewing and swallowing Zero, I mean, I've been thinking about this, and I will give my opinion. But before I do, I want to hear y'all's opinion. Paris Accord, climate change, $100 billion to other countries that don't give a daggone dime? Why would an Iowa boy give a shit about this?
Okay, I'm going to go on a slight tangent here. First off, it's been scientifically proven outside anybody that's affiliated with the liberal government or liberal party or Democratic Party and is not getting the payoff for advancing continual studies of their own, that the Earth is going into another cooling period and has been for quite a while. You just don't want to acknowledge that. Secondly, if, and I do mean if, there are any after effects of where global warming is taking place, that's only been going on for, give or take, maybe 100, maybe 150 years, depending on how you want, depending on when you want to count the real start of the Industrial Revolution in Iowa. So in comparison to the actual cooling down of the Earth because of our orbit and rotation around the sun, well, I guess that's on you to discount the other thing happening with the other thing and then mixing it up like bad flavored Kool-Aid and, you know, Granny's peach tea and whatever have you, whatnot. I don't make euphemisms well enough, but you get the general idea. Secondly, in Iowa, we don't want to have our money, which we've used to keep ourselves in the black, as opposed to our neighboring state of Illinois, who's been consistently in the red for my practical lifetime of plus 40 years, thanks to you, Barack Obama, and everybody else that's a Democrat or a liberal. You've basically never been able to have a reserve like us, and you pissed away your money with, well, basically being idiots. We don't want the Paris Peace Accords here in Iowa, the Paris Accords of any type, because we don't want what little money we do have to go to that helps our citizens and keeps our ever shrinking farms going as they are. And it is not in the best interest of America for anybody to take our money for anything, especially when China and India and other third world countries who don't, and I'm not saying those two are third world countries, but other countries that are basically do not give a shit about the environmental impact they leave. We are only accountable for ourselves, and I personally think it's time we've all become isolationists. But that's another subject for another day. We can't afford it. We have enough problems having too much of a population and maybe 75%, if not half of that, in regards to jobs on a whole. And Iowa was trying, when we had Chet Culver as a governor, was trying to basically blow Barack Obama and get all that money for the windmills and all this other shit, which in the long term hasn't provided shit for money for anything. In fact, down in Muscatine, Iowa, which is 27 to 30 miles from my hometown in the Quad Cities, they do have windmills by their power and water. And it is very negligible with any of the output in regards to energy on a whole that the citizens of that town get. However, to be fair, it has helped their citizens cut their overall consumption of electric products and power and water products by a very small fraction, maybe 2%. If people know me well enough, I'm not going to just go on a rant and mouth off and say one thing without giving credit where it's due. America on a whole, in short, does not need to be in the Paris Peace Accords or Paris Accords, whatever you want to call it, until it benefits us. It is time, America, that we stopped fighting amongst ourselves, and you are either with us or against us. And if you are against us, you need to be put in the Escape from New York scenario on a prison island. We could call it Papillon, we could call it Manhattan, whatever you want to call it. We don't need you. Get with the program or get lost. The rest of the world is not looking out for us on a certain level. We can be civil, we can tolerate each other, we can give respect and love to citizens of the world in other countries such as Britain and France and everything else, but ultimately every country is out for itself. The United Nations has basically shown to not be a viable solution to for the citizens of the United Kingdom and France and everything else over in Europe. And the Paris Accords are not a viable solution or situation for America on a whole. Canada, on the other hand, you guys got problems, and you need to deal with your problems. Leave us the fuck out of it, and quit being fucking assholes, because we don't have time for you anymore. You want to do business with us? Fine, but don't play games. And that's me
And Brett,
projecting,
I
by
think
the way.
I think Britisher, he did mention some things that I won't have to pound on now.
So I'm done.
What was that you said? Zero cool. Yeah, I figured you were wrapping it up. But what was that you said? We don't need. You said we don't need NATO. Was that what you said?
I said the United
United
the EU,
Nations.
the United Nations,
Got
and
quite
the
a strong
EU.
echo.
Yeah, that's coming from Ogre. The European Union has not been a viable solution or a necessity even for England or France or anybody. And we don't need them to fuck with us. We don't need other countries fucking with us. And we don't need to be called upon the nations of the world to be their police neither. It is time that our country starts taking care of itself. And if you're not with us, you're against us, and it should be as such. We can hold hands and be friends all you want, because of course we do love our friends across the pond. We do care about them. We want to see them succeed and be as the best that they can be, but we also need to be the best that we can be, and we can't do that with things like the United Nations, the European Union, NATO, or the Paris Accords touching stuff that they're not supposed to touch. We got people on this planet that want to annihilate us, and you're worried about a bullshit carbon tax, which basically is a non-existent issue. I'm done.
Well, you've made my job very easy, because Britisher, I look to you for a lot of different things, and as an American, as a Midwestern American right now, as somebody that lives in Michigan, the greatest state in the union, I got to ask myself, man, what the UN, all that, United, all this stuff, Paris, climate, whatever. What do I care? Why should one of my dollars, when if you put it in perspective, I am no different than a farmer in rural China. Not the ones that make good decisions and invested their money well. I'm no different. We both have the same standard of living. Why should I pay $1 if they don't? And look, I'll ramble too like he did. So you heard what he said. What I've got another question for you too after this, sir. This is from the chat yesterday. This has to do with Remain or Brexit. But why would I care, and why should I care as an outside observer as yourself?
I mean, we are strictly speaking talking about two different things. One is
let's stick with the Paris thing first, if we could. I know we just
I just meant when you turn on when you sort of touch on sort of internationalism as such, which kind of involves things like the United Nations and things like that. You have to understand that as such, it's a good idea. As such, it's a good idea. The thing is that the execution of it eventually, tends to end up with, diplomats living at large in New York. And it very quickly kind of takes on the kind of shape of a gravy train. But the idea that there is some sort of council where they get together, where they make joint decisions, where they at least try to find common ground, is more than likely a good one. And, as I was saying when I spoke to you the other day, there are areas in which the United Nations have made significant contributions. It hasn't only just been a talking shop and a complete disaster. But yes, should it necessarily cost the Western world this much? The answer is no. When it comes to the Paris Accords.
Okay, that's what I wanted to press you on, because what you just spoke to was not necessarily the climate change thing. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, continue, sir. Sorry.
No, as you know, what I told you the other day, you know, in some countries in Africa, or when it comes to the World Health Organization, which is also organized by the United Nations, things like that, you know, you can clearly see that some worthwhile things have been done. But when it comes to the climate accord, one of the problems we're dealing with here is the fact that everything from a very early point onwards has become so politicized. To the point where, I mean, in America, very much things run along party lines. The climate, you know, the man-made climate skeptics tend all to be on the Republican side. Those people who are completely and utterly sold, coincidentally, are all on the Democrat side. So once again, it seems to have divided along party lines, which makes you suspicious, kind of either way, really, because you've got the feeling that people are taking the positions that kind of their tribe takes. When it comes to my own view on global warming, it's a conflicted one. I can see some reason in it, but I can also see many questions which nobody seems to be addressing, because everybody is shouting from the top of their voices, trying to make a political point. This includes the climate change scientists, which again makes you very, very suspicious as to what you're actually being given for data. So just, I think today, Thunderfoot announced that he's going to make a piece on global warming. And I'm going to be very interested to see what he actually produces. Because whatever has been between him and Sargon, you know, he is a clever mind, and I would be very keen to see what he actually produces, because in the end, it has to be the science that eventually informs us which way the wind blows. And so far, when I've been sort of, you know, looking at things, I think it's in East Anglia or whatever that a lot of the, you know, the University of East Anglia, I think, are the ones where sort of the meteorologists are here in Britain, and they have, to a large extent, heavily been influencing the debate. And I remember some years ago there was some emails leaked. It could have been through WikiLeaks, I'm not sure. And some of those emails were scientists at the University of East Anglia kind of refusing to let their critics see their data as to how they had actually arrived at certain results and what models they had run. Now, if you have got scientists refusing people who hold the other view to even view their data, if they're only willing to provide their data for peer review to other scientists who are friendly disposed towards them, then you become very skeptical about the veracity of all this. So in that regard, I'm not saying it's not happening. I'm not saying that, you know, that it's all completely made up or that it's a conspiracy. But to my mind, I still remain unconvinced.
Well, and British, I just want to pop this in very quickly. You know, as I was going through my one and only very biased news source this morning, and watching Tucker Carlson talk about this stuff and have some people on. Listen, mate, Thunderfoot, all of a sudden he does this almost a 180. He crawfishes. You know, he looks like he's going this way, and he crawfishes. He goes the other way. And it's like, what happened? And look, you know me, I got no loyalty for Thunderfoot or Sargon. Thanks, Sargon, for being on, but, you know, whatever. Why did he change so quick? Is it possible that, like Tucker was saying, how these people always get on, all the prominent scientists of the world say this doesn't, they never mention one. Because there ain't no scientist, every scientist I see talking about climate change says we're going into a cooling, or a warming cycle, where it might be at the end of it and it's going to start cooling off. I mean, if you look at scientists, they're not talking the Bill Nye line. So that might have been a little convoluted. What I'm trying to say, Britt, is I will be very interested to see what his video says too. And this is the question. Did they pay him off?
I mean, I think there are some people who are wondering whether the fact that, of course, you know, he is involved in a lot of scientific work, which is funded by the European Union. And we all know that in a way to go against the stream in academia, I mean, only ask the people who go against the stream when it comes to social justice, that can actually be very dangerous for your funding in academia. Just ask Jordan Peterson. So it may be that, or it may just be that you can be against, the social justice nonsense, and you can still be left of center. So it is possible that Thunderfoot has completely honorable objections. That just as far as he is concerned, Donald Trump and the Republicans are just simply far too far right for his liking. And yet he objects to the social justice warriors. That is a perfectly laudable position to take. And in that regard, it wouldn't be a 180-degree turn. It would just be that at some point, the issue was forced because a lot of people who are basically following YouTube just basically to see social justice warriors get knocked. A lot of those people are on the right. They sympathize rather with Trump, and at some point, a kind of a fissure emerged between Thunderfoot and those people because he simply just does not share their views.
All right. Well, and you know what? I will wrap up at the end. So instead of just trying to go in between, we got a few people here. Everyone here today was specifically invited by me because of this topic.
Can I sorry,
yeah, Tiger said if you got to do something right now, go ahead. But I'm going to go to Loki, and then you would be next. But Tiger, if you got some rock and roll, baby, you're an old timer here.
Well, I was just going to say something quite reasonably long, actually.
No, go ahead. Roll. Yeah. Well, Loki, you just hang in the wings, and you go next, Loki, if you don't mind.
My general view on things is that people have been concentrating far too much on because there are many different environmental issues, and global warming or human-caused global warming is merely just one of them. And everyone, for whatever reason, seems to be totally obsessed with human-caused global warming being real or not. And, of course, the science behind that is a lot more kind of abstract and theoretical and quite difficult to see from or just sort of the general public's perspective. And people kind of seem to be ignoring the more obvious environmental issues, such as the amount of plastic in the ocean or something, because you can quite easily see how that's harmful. The amount of, or just general kind of, I mean, I'm not trying to be a massive tree hugger at the moment or anything. I'm just merely saying that the science behind possible human-caused global warming is so complex and so difficult to, explain to the general public that this debate is just, there are just far too many different environmental issues that it's just getting too much airtime, I suppose. And
it totally dominates the debate, doesn't it?
And no one's getting anywhere with it because we're too busy either just arguing you're a science denier or whatever. And then at the same time, you have organizations like the UN who made predictions, but said by 2010 there'll be 50 million refugees due to global warming, and of course that didn't happen. And then we have Leonardo DiCaprio flying all over the world, and all these other celebrities who have a carbon footprint that's about 50 times greater than average.
Can I interject here for 1 second?
People don't like that. So yeah. Interject me if you want.
Yeah, no, you actually made a very valid point. Something that when Britisher said it, I said that's a very valid point. Is people are not focusing on certain particular issues. Everybody is trying to outshout everybody else.
Because there are so many more environmental issues that are so much more obviously directly harmful, whereas you can see the damage that's caused by, I don't know, turtles who've got their necks caught in plastic things. But you can show people a video clip of some ice falling into the sea from an iceberg, but it's not so obvious that that's there's so much there's so much to get through, so much science and this or that to get through that could link that to human actions. And people are just, I don't know why people are so obsessed with human-caused global warming when there's just so much more, more obvious environmental issues that people should be focusing on. But then again, everyone has their different views on that.
But that's actually something that it is everything that's happened in regards to what you're talking about is because of the industrial revolution, the plastics and everything that humanity has contributed to being ecological disasters.
Yeah, plastics are pretty shitty, to be honest. And I don't want politicians or whatever to just go around shaming people for, using plastic. But in general, that is something which I could, see something being done about. But in general, if you want real change, whether it be, being more environmentally friendly, that'll mostly come from individuals deciding to change their lifestyle rather than what more than government can do, I think. And yeah, and MC says in the chat, plastics are great. Yes, they are great, but they have a dark side to them as well. Obviously, plastics are incredibly useful as well, MC.
And
I know.
MC and Zero Cool, I appreciate everybody jumping in here and whatever, but we're going to stick to statements now, so Loki, rock and roll, brother. What do you think about this whole insanity?
That's actually a perfect segue. It was a long segue, but a perfect segue. That's actually the problem. Even if you actually give them the argument that global warming, man-made global warming is actually happening, most scientists have come out and said we don't have the technology to fix any of this. So all these new taxes being proposed and all these new commissions being put together and all these other people asking for money and asking for your tax money to come together. I think it was yesterday we sat around and actually looked at the proposals that they're putting out, and it seems to look like they just want a hooker and cocaine slush fund. They're just going to be sitting around and just I don't know. They're just like, let's get together and have some more meetings about what we're going to do. There's zero proposed solutions to this issue, and all the scientists are saying that we don't have the technology to fix the situation. We can only have the technology to make our to help developing nations do pollute less, I guess. There's like 0 point of Canada and America going out of their way to abide by all these new laws when it's really China, India, and a few other places that are doing most of the polluting. Although they are doing most of the polluting for us, which is kind of weird. Since you guys mentioned Canada earlier, I did want to jump in here and be like, Stephen Harper. Justin Trudeau recently came out and went on about how we need to start paying this carbon emissions tax. And me and Siggy sat down and started looking for the exact place they're going to start putting this money. It's going to be a significant amount of money that they're going to be throwing around in collecting from the taxpayers. But there's, once again, zero location that you can actually tell where this money is going. Most of it is just going towards setting up new meetings and somewhere and new think tanks that are going to try to develop new and innovative ways for us to, mentally manipulate people into not wasting as much. The other thing that he did, which is actually really pissing me off, is pledge $20 million a year to India and China to improve their infrastructure, which is really bothering me. No, like, how the hell am I supposed to be paying my taxes to the Canadian government for the Canadian government to take my tax money and send it over to India and China for them to improve their manufacturing plants? How the hell does that even make sense? So I don't know. I'm kind of really angry about this, but I also don't know what to do because they've already come out and said, like, the what is it? One of the premiers already came out and said, you don't like it, get the hell out of our province.
If I may,
yeah, go ahead.
Well, if you have something really, go ahead.
No, I just thought it was, when you mentioned that money that was being basically provided, I just found it was interesting that in the past, when it comes to the Marshall Plan or something like that, money wasn't just given. It was given as loans at favorable terms, but it wasn't just handed over. Whereas now, in comparison, the suggestion is just simply to hand over money, which I find an interesting difference compared to the past.
answering both of Britisher and Loki, I believe what we've been doing for a good few decades now is basically the best road ahead, in that we've been sending a large amount of money both from Europe and from America to China, and that was in form of payments for all the goods that they are manufacturing for us. In a way, we basically uplifted China by buying all the produce that they are willing to sell, which caused them to actually improve their manufacturing capability. Right now, it's still pretty dirty, but the middle class that is forming in China is actually slowly starting to demand better living conditions. And this includes reducing harmful emissions, smog, things like that. So I believe that sending money to China is fine as long as it's fair exchange for anything they manufacture or any services that they provide. So I've been having this chat on the stream chat with October of Acorns, and basically we ended up going into the direction that, well, whatever the change of climate may be, it will basically end up benefiting some people and harming others. And there is short exchange here. So Acorn says the plight of one people versus benefits of other people, really difficult. How do we handle this? How do we decide how to proceed? And frankly, I have no good answer to that yet. As in, I cannot really provide any ready-made answer to make some hard decisions. However, I know what a bad answer to that is. A bad answer is exactly some globe-spanning unelected bodies that basically dictate any major economic transfers. Any kind of group of people that would be unaccountable to democratic process, and yet would be making decisions about slush funds in trillions being moved around. So this is something that I really don't want.
And Doppelganger, you're getting a lot better at making yourself known. I don't know if you've been working on enunciating some of the stuff that's hard for us to understand, but you do. That was great. I understood every fucking word, and that's unusual from you to me, because usually I get like maybe 8 out of 10. So, but
okay, I'm
blushing now.
No,
you did. But Dop, let me press him a little bit. Dop, come on, man. On your home planet of Kolot, do you really care what we do here? In other words, you're talking about the benefits of some, or the plight of some. Plight of who? If the plight goes outside of the water's edge, to hell with y'all. What about the plight of China? They are one of the biggest polluters on Earth. You go to some of the Manchuan, there's so many, there's places you go there, you can't see your hand in front of your face at noon because of the pollution and smog. They're not paying anything. They're there. They signed the paper. We're paying $100 billion to China? I mean, so Dop, I guess to clarify for Acorn, is that right? Acorns? Because my pronunciation no better than yours, brother. That's why I was teasing you, I guess. Why would we care the plight of others? Let them plight their own, or appeal to their government in the case of China, India. Oh man, I could go on and on. Appeal to their government not to do this, as we are probably one of the least polluting countries on Earth.
Okay, so basically the subject of climate change, any direction and any time frame of it, is very unique in human history, in that this is the first time we actually are potentially facing something that spans the whole globe and has potential to impact all the countries, and especially have very long-lasting effects that could possibly be very hard to reverse. And again, I'm not saying it's necessarily going to go down exactly as current science predicts. It's just potentially it's that kind of subject. We haven't gotten, I believe, anything similar yet. Well, keeping peace worldwide is to some extent similar, but not exactly. So even the intra-governmental bodies like United Nations or NATO aren't necessarily the kind of structures that are needed to solve. Or at least say with certainty that to solve the problem, or maybe say with certainty that there is no problem here, either way.
Right.
So what I'm trying to say is that basically a new kind of process is necessary on the worldwide scale. However, I really don't want that to become something that's completely unelected, completely unaccountable, and something that would basically just be leadership without any accountability. Damn it.
No, that's very good. And when you said intra, what he meant was multi countries, a lot of countries.
Yeah,
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 I'm
yeah.
sure everybody got it, man. You really are doing good, Dob. So listen, I want to keep it rolling. Even though that probably sprung something that everybody thought about, let's keep it in the order that y'all see in the side chat. Britisher, Zero, Loki. We'll just keep this rolling this way like gentlemen and try to dig to the bottom of this. Was it a good
Okay.
thing, bad thing? Should we care?
Just regarding one or 2 points that Doppelganger just said there before I sort of move on to something else. I mean, first off, with NATO, I think we are looking at a situation where I think Mr. Trump had to row back very, very hard from his initial position, because I think once he came into office, it was explained to him, and he kind of realized that leaving NATO wouldn't be a good idea. But aside from that, what you said about if you have global warming, then obviously it will benefit certain areas and it will harm certain other areas. That kind of creates the image of a kind of balance that, oh well, what will be to the detriment of some will be to the benefit of others.
Mm-hmm.
As such, one can look at it like that. But if you actually think where the population centers are, then you realize, hang on, it would more than likely be to the detriment of a great many and to the benefit of a very few.
I'm not quite sure I follow. Are you implying
Well,
that
I mean,
it's because...
most of the great metropolises are, for example, right next to the ocean or
yeah,
alongside rivers.
Yeah, and I understand that there are some projections of oceans rising crazy amount of meters or whatever.
Given that at the same time we're also predicting continued urbanization, that problem is only going to get worse. So in that regard, if you say it will be to the benefit of some areas and to the disadvantage of some other areas, when you actually look at it in terms of population, then you would more than likely realize, you would more than likely have to conclude that it would be to the disadvantage of a much greater proportion than it would benefit.
Okay, so your point.
That is unless you kind of just take it as a given that you will have to have mass population shifts into the areas that would benefit.
Your point is solid in that indeed at least a thorough analysis of it is necessary, and indeed we have a lot of population centers as in large cities near coastal lines. I believe it's pretty much given in the human history that people tended to settle around coastal lines, be it river or seas or oceans. Look, I have no good answer here because really I don't have any hard data on hand to talk about actual rise of oceans or whatever. However, let's not forget that the current urbanization, the trend to have really concentrated population in large cities, is to large extent connected with industry and other ventures that basically need people to be there, to be present at their workplaces and to perform manual or otherwise in-person labor. And right now we are actually shifting away to some extent from that, in that we neither need huge concentrated industrial centers, nor we need companies to be all concentrated in one place. Point in case, my current workplace is dispersed around several places, and we communicate just fine. We have both digital office and also digital water cooler.
Oh, so true. But what I mean is, even in the highly developed nations, you are seeing a continued drift into the cities because that is the type of living that a much greater number of people seem to prefer.
This has been trend till recently, but I'm not quite sure it will actually hold for another reason, because there is a lot to be said for living where you can have much more space for yourself rather than concentrated in a large city, especially in high-rise kind of city. In any case,
I fully understand that point, but I'm just saying that the cities are continuing to get larger, not merely in the developing nations, but even in Europe. London, Paris, Berlin continue to get bigger and bigger.
Man, I love this band. They're called the Mountain Goats. And what happens is Jeff Darnell's up there, and he's so used to being in small places, and people start talking to him. And then I just love this quote. He was like, "No, man. Listen. You've already said 2 or 3 things to me, and how it is now that I've got a little bigger is you've got to engage and then disengage. I can't talk to you anymore. So that said, in this great conversation, I'm listening to every word. But Zero Cool, you'll be next as soon as you want, and no one has to ask. Just remember, Zero Cool, then we're going to go Loki, and then we're going to go bounce it right back around, back to me, and I will try to do my best to just, but I got to say, I hated to cut in Zero Cool right there because they were kind of, going after it. But we do have a few people here, and there's a reason for that. At this time, once again, when I wrap up, the Ogre will tell you what he thinks about this mess. So, wrap it up, gentlemen, and then Zero.
As far as I'm concerned, we can go to 0.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Don't leave too much dead air, Zero Cool.
3,
I'll let
2,
him keep going. Yeah.
1, 0.
There he is.
Bump, bump, bump. Yeah, I do really like you guys, but this isn't the Doppel and Britisher show.
Yet 0. Yet.
Yeah,
It's the Britisher show though, so let's try to keep that in mind.
I really don't have any thing to follow up with. I think that if we really want to solve some of the ecological issues, it's very simple. Get rid of X amount of the world population, whether we like it or not. If anybody knows what the movie Soylent Green is, you watch the first 15 minutes of that. That becomes a very scary possible future, which we could really be running straight forward into.
Oh, Georgia Guidestones. I mean, keep the population down. I mean, we got all kinds of stuff.
And
Switch to nuclear fuel.
Yeah,
I really don't think there's too much danger of that, to be honest.
No.
Well, that depends if ISIS
No.
keeps sending trucks of
Oh
peace
Lord,
our
I
way.
got to take my own advice. So I forgot about you, Tiger, and you haven't said anything in a minute. So you heard Zero just made a great point and bowed out. But go ahead, brother.
Speaking of the Mountain Goats, did you listen to their new record?
Oh yeah, I think you're the one that sent it to me and actually turned me on to it before I'd even noticed that they had a new one out, sir. As a matter of fact.
Well, yeah, I just came across it while I was doing some work last week, and I remember you mentioned them, but yeah, I've been listening to it like loads this week. It's so good. Anyway, in terms of the sort of economic relationship between Canada and China, I think we need to look no further than from when Justin Trudeau gave this interview. It was before he was president, but I think he was leader of the Liberal Party at the time, and he literally used the words, "I admire China's basic dictatorship." He used those actual words, and there's a little discussion video between Ezra Levant and Stefan Molyneux where they just discuss Justin Trudeau and how he's a really kind of two-faced, horrible person, really. And
who's Stefan Molyneux? Wait, I'm sorry, I'm catching up with you. But Stefan Molyneux said that someone else is a two-faced person? Okay.
Justin Trudeau.
Yeah,
Justin
Trudeau.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, continue. Because I love Stefan Molyneux so much that it almost triggered me when I thought someone might have been calling him a two-faced. Go ahead.
No, not him. No. Well, no. Whoever. I mean, you can think what you like about Stefan Molyneux, but he does. It's good when he has guests on. I don't really listen to his solo videos much because I find his sort of soliloquies a bit kind of annoying sometimes, and a bit kind of, cringy sometimes.
Boring and cringy.
But when he's got guests on, it's really good. But him and Ezra Levant do sort of deconstruct Justin Trudeau because for quite a long time when he was young, he basically went on a really long gap year, or just went traveling around the world for a really long extended holiday with his parents' money, and then randomly decided to stop doing that and enter politics. And of course, he's just massively virtuous and loves kissing his own ass all the time. And yeah, it's just he's just a very strange two-faced man.
Guy's a high school drama teacher with zero political experience. I'm still not sure how the hell he got voted in as a prime minister of Canada, like at all.
Because it's 2015.
It's because he said he's a feminist, and everyone I know who voted for him just voted for him because he said he's going to legalize marijuana, which is why he made my. Never mind. That's it. That was it. People just wanted to be able to smoke their pot on their porch without getting arrested, and he was like, "I'll do that for you," and he's not doing it, by the way. It's not happening.
Yeah, they discussed that in that Stefan Molyneux video as well. They just talk about how he's, in fact, sometimes I smoke marijuana in the House of Commons or something like that. He's just very friendly with marijuana, is Trudeau. But yeah, he's not done anything about legalization. Yeah.
I like to bring up the argument. Well, actually, no, probably not. Not the best place to bring this argument up. It's completely irrelevant. But no, if it's my turn, I would like to know what the hell we're doing with all this tax money. I know that I posted the actual papers that were going over the plan, and the way they're written is that China and India, countries that are horribly underdeveloped, are going to be responsible for their own reporting of how much carbon emissions they're producing or greenhouse gases they're producing, while
That's
people
beautiful.
like Canada, America, and most of the the European Union, are going to have to be under giant scrutiny from our own little companies that run around and make sure we have all the shit done, and then we are all responsible for them developing their shit. So now we're going to be taking more of our tax money and funneling into India and China to help them get developed. As a side note from earlier, China is one of the fastest growing middle classes on the planet.
It is indeed.
Right now, the middle
At the
class in
moment.
America and Canada is collapsing. It's really becoming the super rich versus just people who can barely afford to keep them paying their mortgage, while China is raking in the cash. The people have never seen the escape velocity so fucking high from people just leaving their lower class. And yeah, they're demanding that they get the retribution now. They want all the Xboxes and all the stuff they've been building. And
Well, this
someone else
tax
is going
money
to
is
start
going-
building that stuff. Oh yeah, look. If Apple continues to manufacture in China and we give these companies, these factories, more money to manufacture this stuff, we are just going to be paying higher wages for like people in India, in China, and we're literally just funneling our own tax money into their social programs that aren't there.
And we're going to pay their part of the Paris. I mean, come on, man. I'm sorry I broke in, but yes, we
Well,
can't.
they're not
pay
paying
other people's-
anything.
No, they're not. That's what I'm saying. So we're going to pay $100 billion, and they're going to pay nothing. Some of that money is going to go to China. They are master manipulators, not just of currency.
Well,
The
it may be
Chinese
worth
have been around for a bit.
it may be worth pointing out, of course, that India and China are also two of the most corrupt nations on earth. So if you put 100 billion in, that is not necessarily what will go into building wind farms and whatever.
Oh, I
But
just
a
noticed my niece
considerable-
is in there.
A considerable amount will be funneled off.
Hi, Amber, and that's it, Amber. I can't cut these boys off too long, or they'll, I'll be a jackass, not a good host. But hi, Amber. Uncle Dusty loves you. Hang in there, kiddo. Give me a
Have
call
you-
later on.
Have you done something to upset her? Because she always seems quite passive aggressive in the comments when I've
Oh,
seen her.
Amber? Oh, I'm sure she hates me like the rest of my family, but no, we get along well.
Well, just for the fans of the film Hot Fuzz, all the tax money is going towards the greater good.
No, and by the way, she's good. We just bust each other's balls. That's my family's way. That's just how we do it.
Can I ask, has anybody here ever heard of Hans Rosling?
No.
Yes,
Because-
yes. I believe he passed recently, but now his
Yes.
son is following his
Oh,
work.
is he a statistician?
He was the UN chief statistician for some time, and
Yeah.
he then made
wait,
some
yeah,
very good documentaries.
I think I saw one of his documentaries. It was about population growth. Yeah, I think I've seen that.
was
Yeah.
pretty much his speciality.
Yeah. I've seen that. Yeah.
Basically showed how birth has effectively leveled out at around about the year 2000. So
There's
world
it's
population
also how
really growing through birth anymore. The reason the world population is still growing is because we're living longer. So
Mhm.
in that regard, you have to understand that what there are now of, say, 70-year-olds is a given number. But as now basically the next generation then moves into that bracket of becoming 70-year-olds, there will be more of them.
Mhm.
So it is actually in the upper echelons of age that the world population is expanding. So that is
It's-
why we are still growing. So he basically sort of showed he showed sort of on graphics and models that we will get to about 11 billion. And
then start to level up,
we shouldn't really grow much further than that.
Yeah.
And that any predictions that can be made show that we should actually quite easily be able to feed that number of people. So the long-held belief, from about 30 years ago or so, that the population will just explode and we have no way of dealing with it, that has actually since long been overtaken by facts, that we are really no longer in a population explosion, that we can actually pretty precisely predict exactly to what size roughly the population is going to grow, and that it seems to all account that we can quite easily manage with that.
In a way, this is connected to actually people in developing countries becoming middle class and basically having much less children.
Yes.
However, one of the problems is that basically we still have some hotbeds of high population growth, and those tend to coincide with Islamist culture. So there is some risk in that one culture may overtake large swaths of the world. Moreover, I wanted to point out that basically we are at this point at about 7 billion people on the Earth, and just a few decades ago, we wouldn't have been able to actually feed us all. It's only thanks to the so-called Green Revolution, very rapid improvements in agriculture, that we are able to feed all these people. This is much more people than the predictions were at that we would be able to actually feed. Mostly thanks to one Norman Borlaug, who was an agronomist and humanitarian, who actually was one of the fathers of the Green Revolution that improved our agriculture. In any case, I wanted to actually go back to something that Loki mentioned a while ago, basically Trudeau being enchanted in a way with the dictatorship or at least a strong government in China. In a way, this is no strange to me in that, well, it's assumed quietly that dictatorship can get things done. And given that Trudeau deeply believes that the world is under high danger of global warming, it would be only natural for him and other people like him to admire strong dictatorships and other forms of strong governance for the ability to actually counteract something on a large scale and to basically whip up the public to do something and follow some grand plan. Unfortunately, this goes against the spirit of democracy to a large extent.
As a quick side note, the papers are split up into developed countries and undeveloped countries, and as we understand, the developed countries are going to be paying the bill for all the undeveloped countries that are trying to improve their infrastructure. Russia is not listed as a developed country, so Russia is going to be getting a bunch of money from this program as well. Just want to throw that out there.
Russia would actually also receive money.
Oh yeah, lots of it.
Because
it's listed as an undeveloped nation.
Putin was quite. He wasn't particularly hostile or critical to the idea that America was pulling out.
And Britisher, this will probably go on for another 2 hours. So if there's something you want to pop it up anytime.
Yeah, but it has no immediate relevance to the thing. So I don't want to disrupt.
I'm going to say this. We're going to go one more round about this Paris thing, and then I'm going to, at the end of this next round, I'm going to put my last cherry on top, and we're going to move on to something else. So when we move on to something else, Britt, hit that, man, because I know it's late where you're at. Thanks for being here, mate. Sometimes I don't even know. You're like, I thought you were working, and I know I sent it to you, but, man, you're like daggone clockwork. You're better than the mail.
If I may, I see a certain irony here in that the current president of the United States is being accused of various shenanigans in regard to Russia, whereas I've just learned that the previous president has actually decided to let a huge really amount of money to be sent from America to Russia over years. So yeah.
Do we know how much money would have gone to Russia?
Yeah, I have no idea. Loki, perhaps you have some data on that.
No. They I don't think they've even started counting the amount of money necessary. They have to start reporting back the amount of greenhouse pollutions they're causing, and then the countries will have to start reporting back the amount of money they would need to fix that issue. and at which percentages. So, let's say China mails us and goes, well, all of our people sat down and did the calculations for how much money we'd need, and it'll be about $3.5 billion to fix about 1% of our carbon emissions production. And then we'd have to send them that money because they're reporting it themselves. So I guess we'll see.
Yeah, that does sound a bit rich, I must admit.
In any case, how do we return to the
too much dead air. Go ahead, Doc.
how do we return to the subject of Paris Accords?
Well, I'm going to wrap it up, and unless everybody else is not done, because as soon as they are, I've got a little something to say. It'll take me 3 minutes, and then we're getting off this topic.
Well, I guess we're ready. We're ready to.
Well, what I'm going to tell y'all is
Rogan.
this: listen, Britisher, whoever, y'all want to kill Trump because he ain't like there personally putting mortar on bricks and laying a wall on the southern border. And everybody wants to say, oh, Trump said blah, 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 blah. Well, guess what else he said? I remember. I used to watch all of his rallies. I'd listen to him while I worked. Everyone should know that if they've watched more than 5 of these. He also said, we're getting out of the Paris climate bullshit. Why? $100 billion? Are you shitting me? Listen, world, kiss my ass. I'm not paying for you. I don't want to pay for you. I don't give a shit what you do. And yes, I mean that. If you're a sovereign country and you are spewing toxins into the air, hey, maybe we can shun them. Maybe we can, embargo them or something. But other than that, whatever. I'm not into getting into some kind of accord or treaty where I could put sanctions on you. Who's going to pay the carbon tax? Rhetorical panel. Who's going to pay it? Americans are going to pay it. British are going to pay it. The people that have money are going to pay it because, of course, like we seen earlier, there's a plight in those that benefit. Give me a break. It's happenstance. It's a chance of birth. As much as I like to be proud of who I am and what everything about me and where I'm from, it wasn't my doing. And so don't hate me, don't hate America because we make more money than y'all. We don't pollute as much as you do, China. We don't pollute as much as you do, Pakistan. India, not even close. You can blame Union Carbide for Bhopal all you want. It was horrible, it was terrible, but it was your laws that let it go to that. So without me going too far, that's all I got to say, folks, on that. And this is the end of this discussion. Why? We got a lot of good angles on this talk, on this idea. And yeah, whereas the Britisher has bent me a little bit like that palm I like to talk about being, not the oak, I want to bend with the breeze. And he's got me thinking a little bit more about, do we need the UN and things like that. But no one at this point will convince me that we need to get in some fake religious movement like climate change and have our high priest Bill Nye, the fuckwit guy, leading the charge. I don't need that shit. I got enough problems. So what was it, Britt, that you want to?
Well, what I'll do, I'll put a link in the side chat, and perhaps you can present it. This is Jacob Rees-Mogg. He is a conservative.
Love the Mogg.
And he is, not only is he a conservative, this is from his Instagram account. And you need to hear Jacob Rees-Mogg to believe it. Some people refer to him as a member for the 19th century. And this is a picture he has put up. And you've got him there with his blue rosette. So this is the kind of thing that some MPs will wear as they go through the town and go from door to door and speak to voters on the doorstep. And he's there with his son, who seems to be a bit of a mini-me, if you know what I mean. And there they're standing outside a tattoo parlor called Savannah Studios. And as you can see, in the window there it says Labour. Keep sane, don't vote Tory. So basically, here is the ultimate conservative MP. I mean, so much so that you laugh when you hear him talk. And in his very own bone-dry way, the comment he put with the photograph, if you see at the top right, is, "We shall have to take our business elsewhere."
Oh, spoken like a true gentleman, I guess.
Can I offer a little Mog anecdote.
Oh, please do.
He was on Have I Got News for You, which if you're not from the UK, it's basically a sort of comedy political discussion show thing where they get on comedians and political commentators. And some stupid liberal comedian sort of said to him, "Isn't it sort of embarrassing being right wing?" And he sort of took a sort of taking it back a little bit, and then he said, "The only thing I can say to that is Jeremy Corbyn." It was a thug life moment for me.
I was adjusting my camera, so I hope everybody got that. That was actually kind of funny.
Everyone missed the whole thing. No one got it.
I was laughing my ass off. I was moving my camera. I'm trying to get some things set up. Jeremy Corbyn.
It was a great moment.
Oh no, he definitely has his moments. I mean, I remember one moment he was asked whether he was in touch with the people. And then he started quoting Latin in order to just show how in touch he was. I think it was Vox Populi, the voice of the people, Vox Populi.
He started quoting Latin to show how much of an everyday man he was.
Yes, precisely. You just thought, yes. Jacob, I don't really think you. I think you should stop digging now, Jacob.
Yeah. Well, you know what I say to you, Britisher: Fraternum et vitam et muertum.
I don't think he's being unself-aware at that, because there's a difference between people like Mog, who's a bit more principled, and people like Ed Miliband when they're sort of faced with, getting on the level of the common man. For example, there was Ed Miliband who gave his little interview to Russell Brand before the 2015 general election, and it was, oh my god, it was so cringeworthy, because Ed Miliband was dropping his T's and like acting all golden bait, you know what I mean, mate?
Yeah, and your fingernails begin to curl inwards, don't they?
It was, oh god, it was excruciating. And then there's this other interview with Jacob Rees-Mogg with Ali G, and he's literally just being himself completely. He's not talking down to him at all. He's just being himself.
But as you say, I think it is, to a certain extent, he is fully self-aware. It is basically, he knows how this comes across. So some of it is very tongue-in-cheek. And
ironically, Ed Miliband is being incredibly unself-aware by dropping his T's and not realizing how much of a tit he's making.
That's why that photograph is such a classic Jacob Rees-Mogg moment, because there he is outside a tattoo parlor saying we shall have to take up elsewhere.
It's a very
because
funny picture.
There is anybody who will never enter a tattoo parlor in his life, it is Jacob Rees-Mogg and his
So
life.
when I see blue over there, that actually, I think you've told me this too like 10 times, Britisher, that actually means the right wing over there.
The blue are the Conservatives, yes, that's
okay,
the right.
all right. That's because he was wearing a blue, and when I saw that, I was like, "Why is a left?"
Not very right at the moment.
It's all clicking.
Well, you have to understand that, of course. Think of the Soviets. Think of the Reds, and then you realize why the left is associated with red over here. Socialism. That's the red flag.
Although the Conservatives aren't particularly right at the moment, they're sort of all over the place. But certainly, they're not right at the top of the party. With it being in their manifesto.
That is unless it's down to controlling the internet and
yes, and in their manifesto
like that, then they can go quite right.
Okay, so a quick question to
every. Sorry, can I just quickly say every company has to every week or whatever, every month has to give its gender and race pay gap. This is in the Conservative manifesto, and it's so disappointing. Anyway, sorry, Mark, what were you going to say?
Okay, so a quick question here to Britisher and Tigerson. The anecdotes I'm hearing from you both about the politicians and other high people basically give me this idea of people who are highly educated, highly intelligent, probably highly connected just as well. And yet they seem to be just politicians in that they don't seem to be those crazy elitists trying to run the country from shadows. Is that right? And if that's the case, how come that your country is actually able to in a way not be elitist in some crazy way?
Well, I think one of the things that separates us from, say, continental European politics is that we don't have a list system. So over there, it is generally proportional representation. So basically, if you win 30% of the votes, you get 30% of the seats.
Right.
And what you have basically done is you have just basically made up a list of your politicians, the top ones at the top. So even if you only win 5%, they will definitely get in. And then according to, you know, how many more seats you win, the next one on the list gets in. That is not how it works over here. Here you have constituencies. And basically each person will stand effectively in that constituency. So basically a constituency votes for a particular candidate and he represents that constituency in parliament. And
He
that
or she?
means, yes, thank you. But that means he is directly accountable to that constituency. So it's very, very much harder for them to totally detach themselves because they are effectively accountable to their specific voters and not just to a party system that has put them on a list. Because let's say you are a member of the Conservative or Socialist Party in France and you are very close to the top of that list. There is no way that the voters can specifically get rid of you. All that can happen is that your party can lose votes. But given that you are very close to the top of that list, it will pretty much not affect you anyway. But if you have a constituency to defend and people turn against you because you've been involved in some scheme, like, say, the Paris Accord, then the voters can come for you.
Well, sounds like a proper democracy to me.
Oh, and you know what we always end up in DOP. I actually think I'm looking up the wrong thing because I think I'm going to the latest information you sent me. And is this part of the what you were just mentioning to me? Because I mean I'm looking, and we'll talk about some more English stuff. That's why I got you all on. But my goodness, is ISIS now saying that they are vowing a wave of car bombs in France?
Apparently so. This is what I got from the article. Unfortunately, the article is sprinkled all around with advertisement. So if you could please check the next link to it, it's a bunch of screenshots, which actually should be easier to read. In any case, this was an open letter, apparently targeted at both French populace and also at French police in particular. And the Islamists in ISIS were demanding demanding the France to acquiesce to some demands, like, I don't know, it's detailed in the article itself, with the threat of basically going on an all-out terrorist attack spree by both bombs and.
And I'm sorry about the 180, everybody, but man, this stuff, you know, I mean, it's getting. I don't even know if we should quit talking about it. Sometimes in my own heart, let me be very clear and transparent.
ISIS's methods in Europe, or particularly France, seem to be more vehicle orientated these past days or this past year.
That's because vehicles are easier to get in Western nations.
And Tiger, y'all don't mind talking about it, so we're just going to roll with it. Forget about my preamble, because I know we talk about it a lot on this channel, but holy shit. Go ahead, folks.
It's happening a lot, isn't it?
Well, I think the chief message from that is they are really losing in Syria. And I think that's why, as they are being squeezed more and more in Syria, more and more of their fighters are going to return home. And at the same time, they are going to lash out harder and harder in order to sort of try and strike at us here, because they're being hammered in their sort of in their territory, so to speak.
Yeah. Also, apparently, there's been a new quote-unquote threat for them because apparently Trump recently started calling them losers, or evil losers.
Yeah, they're losers. They are losers. It's so funny.
Yeah,
that should have happened years ago. As I say, I mean, I think in that regard, Trump is taking the exactly right track. I would forget the evil bit. I would just say losers. I would basically. The fact
I
you
think
have
just a
to
bunch of
undermine their sense of honor. You have to basically show them to be sort of, idiots. And like that, you are in a way going to deter more people wanting to join them. The more you kind of turn them into these demons, the more you kind of give them their kind of jihadi cool that they seek. Because just look how they tend to present themselves, like ninjas and whatever. They want to be seen as dangerous, shadowy people. Completely deny them that space and just refer to them as complete losers.
That's an interesting point, actually. Yeah.
Yep. Sorry, Doc.
And
Almost.
yeah, here's to hoping that actually this will take some hold and people will stop looking at them at those, freedom fighters or just guys with some awesome powers, and instead start looking at them at people who basically go out, blow themselves up for some crazy ideas. And
Well, I'm
there is
stoked too,
nothing more to them.
I'm stoked because in my mind, Dop, we got at least two folks here, the Britisher and Zero Cool, and probably, I don't want to speak for Loki, I don't know much about him yet, but that would say these people are a fucking joke. It's time that we started looking at them like the morons with their weapon, their holy weapon in their underpants, and they have to, every time I think of them, Britisher, I hear you saying that. So I can't take them seriously anymore. You've honestly helped me with that, because every time I think of ISIS, I see a guy in the water closet with a match trying to light something that he's got stuffed down his drawers. And it takes the power out of it.
They're not morons, they're not clowns, they're not idiots. They're a viable threat that need to be hunted down and exterminated. I don't give a fuck if people are like, that's racist. Fuck you. If you commit a terrorist act in America and you are technically a terrorist, you are by law to be hunted down and put to death.
No.
If you're not from America, shut the fuck up. I'm sick of other countries interjecting, thinking they can speak for us. All you bitches have your own problems to deal with. Why don't you get your fucking vaginas cleaned off and deal with your own goddamn situation? Fuck you guys. Not
sorry,
you guys
Zero,
in the
but
chat. Not you dudes in the chat. I'm
No,
talking
he's fine. He's fine. Everyone here is welcome to their own opinion. Continue, sir.
I'm not talking about you guys in the chat. I'm saying, if you're not American, mind your own fucking business. Deal with your own shit first. Let us deal with ours. And then if you want to sit at the big boys table and have a brunch with us, feel free to have dinner. We'll invite you over and have a good time. But these Islamic terrorists are not losers. I don't give a shit what Trump says. They are a viable threat, and they've proven it. They need to be hunted down and killed. That's all there is to it.
Well, and let's before we move on to everybody else, Britisher, because look, I'm on both sides, Zero. I mean, that was great, brother. But I'm on both sides. What I'll say is the people that they recruit to do these things are insane losers that can't seem to get their shit together. But
you got me on that one, Ogre. You definitely got me on that one.
Clearly, there must be some people with brains in it. I mean, that's beyond doubt. We know that there are one or two sort of master bomb makers who are, in fact, some of the people they sort of keep hidden most of all.
Wait.
But at the same time, yes, when you see some of the individuals that they have sent forth in order to bring jihad to the streets of Britain, you cannot help but laugh, because some of them, I mean, it is pretty much clownish what some of the situations end up like.
I will definitely concede that, Britisher. You get that with any religious sect, to be honest. But my main point of my rant is, when are people going to stop being such a bunch of dirty vaginas, clean themselves up, and start doing shit about it? That's my point. That's all there is to it. But I do agree. You guys make a very valid point. There are always those jackhats in any religious sect that present themselves as a freaking joke. However, the rebuttal, which I did go on a tirade about, was they may look like a joke, but they don't act like a joke. And that makes them deadly, and that makes them to be taken seriously and to be hunted down and needing to be destroyed. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay, So they're all losers. Yes, they are. They are also absolutely a threat. But there's always nuance with every goddamn statement. I know the left wants to go on about how these people are really socioeconomic losers, more so than anything else. I actually do think the left came up with the term for them as losers because they keep going on about how these are poor, impoverished people. They'll take $35,000 roughly per explosion. They absolutely go out and they strap bombs to themselves to blow themselves up so they can feed their family. Which I don't know how true that is these days. I think it's a whole different ball game. The other problem that I see with this mass immigration bullshit is that there's a lot of people running from their own country. I've had a personal experience. I've had like a personal sit down with somebody from one of these countries, and when the refugees crisis first started, and I go, well, what happens when these people start infiltrating, start pretending to be refugees, start showing up to your country and blowing yourself up? I'm like, what are you gonna do then? He's like, whatever, I don't care, I'll leave. I'm like, that's because you're a coward. I'm sure your parents escaped from the country where they didn't want to be fucking what is it, controlled by Islam, and you came to Canada. Now you sit around in Canada wanting to bring in more refugees, and when the refugees start blowing themselves up, you move on to the next country. No wonder these people are taking over your country. How the hell are you going to possibly ever control your country if you're just a scared little loser running away?
That's that. You know, as I've been saying on the side chat, those are two very valid points. But Loki, very much so. But let's also compare that to World War II. A lot of people are like, ooh, no, not us. But leftists don't want to talk about World War II. They make actually my ancestors sick that World War II ever happened and fought for it. What happened during World War II? We were having places like the UK and France and parts of Germany, which got took over first, and Poland. They were getting their ass stomped by a basic religious nutcase. But unlike and yes, people did flee to America for safety, but they also fucking joined the U.S. military, and they also backed up the militaries of their own countries, which they were forced to flee from. So there's that. I guess the word would be dynamic in comparison to what's happening now. So yeah, I think you brought up two very damn good valid points, and people just don't seem to see the comparison between these two, or the correlation between these two situations, which I just made. But I have to give you kudos on that.
When it comes to calling the ISIS and other Islamists losers, basically it's battle of perceptions. In that we in this way we are going after people who are considering doing something strange with their life, maybe even throwing away their lives, and at some point they have to ask themselves, who do I join? So the whole point of labeling ISIS as losers or evil losers is to actually indicate that no, those people won't be running the world ever. They will be gone at some point, and nobody will miss them. That's the whole idea behind it.
Here's an interesting thought. How good is your fucking ideology if a lot of your followers are willing to strap bombs to themselves to blow themselves up? I sure saw that there's not a lot of capitalists running around, or like people in the first world who are ready to strap bombs to themselves to do anything. They're like, no, my life is too good to want to blow myself up. My life is actually pretty fucking fine. So how what kind of environment do you come from? What kind of ideologies are these people following, where they are literally willing to blow themselves up just to get the hell away from it?
They're the sorts of ideologies which are obsessed with the concept of the afterlife. That's why
the death cult perception.
That's why they have all these Islamists blowing themselves up, because they're obsessed with the concept of an afterlife. And
but to be fair, have we ever thought that maybe these people were mind wiped to believe so hardcore in this ideology because that's all they grew up with?
No.
Okay, well, I'm just asking.
I just have to stop you right there because I was just about to go into this. Like, there's a reason that we've been finding recent trends. That
look at Ogre Snapchatting right now. Just look at it. Look at Ogre Snapchatting right now. Just look at him.
No, there's a reason that we've been finding more and more
just
evidence.
To my niece, man, but I'm paying
as long
attention.
As it's tasteful.
Oh.
Yeah, I was Snapchatting back to my niece. She did send me a picture of her, a thing of her shooting down some vodka. And listen, I'm proud of my niece. I'm gonna say it right now, where hopefully she can hear me. Baby girl, drink all the vodka you want. You and your Uncle D are not the same people. If I make choices, it doesn't mean that you have to make any choice or that I would love you any less because you do something that I've chosen not to do anymore, girl. I love you anyway, and I've never thought. I've only thought the best of you. So continue, gentlemen.
There is a limit to how much vodka you should have, actually.
Oh, and
Just-
she don't do bad.
My
I mean,
my
she
liver
comes
just
home and-
hurts thinking about that.
I don't even want to say on air, but she told me I can say this I think without pissing her off. She drinks less than a half a pint a day. So in other words, she comes home and she pours 4 fingers in a water glass and she has a drink, and then that's her evening. But she also works very hard and doing what I won't say. So continue, gentlemen. That's all. I just love my niece, and I wanted to tell her, that I don't, because someone makes a decision. If I make a decision and decide to destroy my life because thus and such, I'm weak. And if I have to have everybody around me, I mean, I can't imagine Cabbage Patch Bastard not drinking wine. I really can't. And I don't know. Hopefully it's not hurting him. I don't know. It's not my business. But he's not a dick. He's always drinking wine. So if in fact, well, he is a dick. But whatever he is, he's that
A nice dick.
all the time. You know what I mean? So anyway, that's the end of my tirade. Because I do something, don't mean you should do it. And because I don't do something, doesn't mean that I have to have you quit it for me to continue. If that was the case, that would make me a weak sister. And I'm not a weak sister. Continue, gentlemen.
Sorry. So I was going on about how what were we saying that it's a cult obsessed with death and you're brainwashing them. No, that is actually not the case. We've been finding more and more evidence recently that the ISIS bombs, for example, the suicide bombs, are either timed or remote activated, not by the people wearing them. The other thing we've been finding them is those people who are driving trucks of peace or car bombs or whatever, they have to get chained up to that car to try to prevent them from fucking just running away. I can guarantee you that a lot of these people come to Western nations, they do get these homes, and then they really start rethinking their ideology of a death cult. And with it is absolutely a death cult. I've spent a lot of time arguing against religion, and recently I've kind of calmed down on it. But yeah, no, I fully remember that these are absolutely death cults, and no, the Western world, the Western ideology, the Western lifestyle is actually so fantastic that most of these people do not want to continue following them. That's why the strongest resistance to ISIS and to these extremist Muslims, as we will find very soon, are going to be either moderate Muslims or other people who got the hell away from Islam and are going to want the West to start fighting back against it. The leftists are going to continue pushing the narrative that everyone's welcome and everything's okay. But I guarantee you are going to start seeing Muslim groups pop up that are going to demand the destruction of ISIS from the Western nations.
The trouble is that you have people like Ayaan Hirsi Ali being, constantly accused of being a racist or a whatever. And if you have people like her who've, been through all the bad stuff and actually spent quite a lot of effort to flee to Europe and, realize that the West is quite a nice place to live. And then they're, refused all these platforms. Although, did anyone see her on being interviewed by Jon Stewart on the Today Show? She was promoting her new book called Heretic. And she was, talking about how Islam needs a reformation. And of course, he was constantly saying, but Christianity, etc. And then at the end of the interview, he says, oh yeah, you just want to sell some books, right? And it was the most smug, twatish thing I've ever seen in my life. It was infuriating. It was ridiculous.
Or Jon Stewart?
Jon Stewart, although John Oliver probably done something even worse. But
I don't know. Jon Stewart was. Yeah, I was just watching.
We sincerely apologize for allowing John Oliver to infiltrate and infect your nation.
We have to hear everybody's voice.
Wait.
You can't hate John Oliver. I mean, I don't
can
hate him.
John Oliver.
Okay, you can hate him, and I don't like him. But I'll say this: I watch. In fact,
he's not funny.
I've told people many times that I don't watch any news except for.
Well, I think I think when it comes to John Oliver and whether he's funny or not, we are looking at this kind of strange demise of comedy that has occurred here, whereby I think Ben Shapiro has made 1 or 2 pieces about it, where he's kind of talking about how just basically standing up in front of an audience saying, "Oh, isn't President Trump stupid?" You know, and is that a joke? You know. And in that regard, I think that's where Kathy Griffin ended up. Basically, well, I'll just behead Trump, and people are going to find this hilarious. But basically, they're somehow forgetting that when it comes to comedy, there's supposed to be context. There's supposed to be some sort of punchline. You know, there's supposed to be some comedic payoff, as opposed to just signaling to your audience that you don't like the person they don't like. And I think that is in the way where we've ended up with people like John Oliver.
Regardless of what the joke, regardless of who it's targeting, it's just the same thing over and over again. It's just Trump's bad, ha ha ha. Look how amazingly intelligent and virtuous I am for having pointed that out. Ha ha ha.
The days of Rory Bremner, or of Yes Minister. I mean, those days are long gone. That's when they were actually trying to cleverly dissect what was going on, and people were ridiculed for what they were doing or for their hypocrisies. It wasn't just a matter of ridiculing them because they are your political opponents.
Okay,
Well,
I have a real
mainstream-
question to the panel here. I really want this answered. Are we condoning? Are we condemning Kathy Griffin for posting that photo?
Let's answer
where are
it
we
one at a
standing
time.
here?
Let's
Yeah,
answer
well,
it one at a time. We'll go with Mark Doppelganger, the Britisher, Tigerson, Zero, and then me. So say that very clearly. What's the question?
Are we condemning Kathy Griffin for posting that photo? Are we seriously looking down there for it, or are we okay with her getting fired for it?
Doppelganger.
Yeah, so I'm condemning her in that I'm critiquing her. I believe she overdid it, but then again, I believe she shouldn't be in any way, shape, or form harmed or fired. It's just bad taste, but this is something that freedom of speech covers perfectly. This is one of the cases where freedom of speech is important.
Britisher.
Count Dankula.
Tigerson.
Amen to that.
Perfect.
Tigerson.
I don't want her to be arrested, and whether or not she should be fired, no, she shouldn't really be fired. But the thing is, I just think she's a fucking idiot, and she's just really weird. It was just really weird. That's what I first thought. I wasn't really shocked. I was just baffled. What is the point of this?
Zero.
What is your point? You're just, how are you making Trump look bad? You just look like a fucking psychopath.
Yeah, but that's her entire career.
It
Zero
was
cool.
It was so stupid. It was just
We're
so
going to go down the line. We got 2 more. Zero cool.
She has better material. Whether people, hey, I didn't butt in when anybody else was talking. I'm being asked to talk. She has better material. Some people can think she's funny. Some people can think she's not funny. I have seen stuff from her in the past that was downright hilarious because it's very edgy, if not dim-witted and dull on a certain level. But celebrities, and I'm sorry it has to start with her in my opinion, but celebrities need to realize that they cannot continue to behave in a seditious manner. They are basically using their status to provoke people to rebel against our fairly elected president and our officials, and are being disrespectful to people who did vote and that are happy with how things are currently going. And to be fair, if this was done when Barack Obama was president, they'd be calling for heads to roll and blood in the streets.
But was this seditious?
And that's well said. And we'll go around. We can talk about this in a second,
Yeah.
Brett.
Well, okay.
Is that it, Zero? Because I got
let me finish that out. I'm going to answer his question. I'm going to answer the question real quick.
All right,
Sedition
boys.
is defined as conduct or speech inciting people to rebel against the authority of a state or monarch. When celebrities behave like this, that disrespect our president, government officials, and police who are there to serve and protect us, that by my definition is behaving in a seditious manner. in answer to your question.
Asked and answered. That sounded good. So what I'm going to say is I can't disagree with Doppelganger. I think put it the second best after Count Dankula. I mean, and what more could be said? I'm about ready to tell you. If you hate what someone's done, but that thing they've done has not hurt, ow. You know what I mean? Hurt, ow. I don't mean hurt, you motherfucker. I don't mean that kind of hurt. Hurt, ow. Or taken away from, stole from, taken their life, then, hey, grow up. Because there was a man named Larry Flint. He ran for governor of California. He started the dirty magazine Hustler. And he put an ad in the back of Hustler, and I think it was 1976, and it said, I can't remember the name of the vodka, a made-up name of vodka. This vodka was so good that after drinking a fifth, Jerry Falwell drug his grandmother, kicking and screaming, to the outhouse and butt-fucked her. That's what it said on the thing. I mean, it's bigger than life. Johnny B. Frigg right there. It had the outhouse, and you could see, like, the back end of a very good caricature of Falwell dragging an old lady in there to butt-fuck her. And so what it came down to was, can you prove that since you're a public figure, Mr. Trump, President Trump, Mr. Falwell, can you prove that anybody would take this seriously? And so I've got to say this, MCJK, Zero Cool, everybody, I got to say this to anybody that may disagree with me. Unless you think Kathy Griffin, and I get the parallels with ISIS. Hey, man, what about the guys around the bonfire British are talking about? Look at the death's head insignia. Are we the bad guy? I mean, satire is satire. And unless you can take it seriously and say that this insane red-haired girl that is funny, sometimes, Zero, I agree with you. Most time to me, she's not. That's it. I can't. I could go on for an hour, so I'll wrap it up that way. If you know that Jerry Falwell wouldn't take his grandmother and anally rape her in the outhouse after drinking vodka, because the man don't even drink, well, then you can't. That's it. And if you put yourself in a position, unless it's something done in pride, I mean, there's different things. It's Hulk Hogan, because I'm going to go on, because I now feel like I'm going to defend myself on stuff, because there's certain things I will stand up for my own rights on. If you steal something from me that's private and try to make it public, I'll hit your ass hard. My lawyer will, actually, like he did. Because you can't do that. You can take anything I say now or the other day or whatever I've said online. You can take that, do whatever you want with it. And so boom, now I'm getting off track. So I hope that answers from everybody, and I hope I put a big cherry on top. Because do I like it? No. Was it abhorrent to me? But I'm sure there was people, Britisher, guaranteed, I don't care if it was 5 of them, that laughed their ass off at that and hate Donald Trump in their heart, and that was a release for them. So unless I'm ready to say Monty Python can no longer be, help, help, I'm being repressed. You know, now we see the violence inherent in the system. Now, you know what I mean? Unless I can say that that's bad and we can't have the Monty Python search for the Holy Grail anymore.
Well, we can always have the Catholic Church or Catholics try to sue Monty Python for their repeated joke of nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
Yeah, oh, that's, well. And so that's the cherry on top of this for me. But I would say, I want to ask a question also, if I can, unless somebody else says something. Bern, I didn't look in the side chat or here. So if somebody's been waiting, and is somebody waiting for something I don't know about? Okay, so if not, what is an SJW? Are you a social justice warrior if you see something that you feel is a bad thing, but it didn't cause any of the what I talked about, no pain, ow, no theft, no loss of property? Are you an SJW if you see said thing happen and you felt one way about somebody, and you may even still feel the same way, or something, and then you suddenly decide to boycott and/or does that make you an SJW?
So we're looking for the definition of SJW, really.
Pretty much, because I want to know how to use the term in the future.
Well, I would say it sort of goes back to, you know, the concept of social justice. So basically, are people disadvantaged? Are some people held back? Because I think that is what you know, the so-called social justice warriors wish to address. That's why people talk of they're trying to achieve equality of outcome, as opposed to equality of opportunity. So I think their aim is a laudable one, but it is in the end misguided, because in the end, all we wish to, in a way, produce is a society that can produce as equal an opportunity for everyone as possible. But we will never be able to produce equality of outcome, because we can't all be as rich as Donald Trump, play the guitar as well as Eddie Van Halen, and win some gold medals at the Olympics because somebody else can. So basically, you will inevitably have a divergence of people's careers dependent not merely on their choices, but even just on their given talents. So yes, when it comes to the basic construct, I think it is basically seeking to alleviate kind of people being held back. So basically to give them justice, hence social justice. But it should effectively be an aim. It should never be something that should be imposed, and that's where they're going completely wrong.
I'm with you, Britisher, on the points you raised. Those are excellent points, and I wanted to expand a bit on one last word, the warrior, in that it's not only social justice that makes an SJW, it's also the warrior part. Basically, those are people, at least in my mind, who are warriors, are in common parlance activists, and they enjoy being activists. They want to be activists. They see their role in the society as activists. So they go and they try to be active. They try to change things. And therein lies the other problem, in that once any inequalities are leveled out and basically people are guaranteed legal protection, people are guaranteed equal chances, in that case, the SJWs still are added because they want to be those activists. They want to keep changing the world. And you can see time and time again that they actually go off rails.
Yes, I think you're right there. That kind of to kind of point to the activism itself, because I think one of the things that specifically categorizes them is the fact that because they believe that they are fighting for the right cause, that they're on the right side of history, they seem to be operating under the guise of the ends justify the means. So it doesn't matter how ludicrous they get. It doesn't matter whether they are seeking to destroy people's lives who are opposing them. It is all in the end for the greater good.
Yep, and at the point that some early goals are achieved, they basically are lost because they cannot stop being activists, and they try to go on with what they know best, in this case, activism.
Well,
Yes.
don't forget what I put in the side chat there, Doppel, is that it really should be the aim of social equality should be for all, not specifically one group or oneself. It should aim to make things better for all, not in a self-serving manner, which unfortunately seems to be the issue. I'll make a quick comparison here. I happen to have friends that are handicapped, and they actually have to use wheelchairs. So when we had some buildings built in my town, we had a town hall meeting, and we all got together and said, hey, we're building these buildings here. Do we need to put in a ramp? And we all said, yeah, well, yeah. We also had older structures that we had spare money left over. Says, do you guys want to put a ramp in here on these properties too? And we're all like, well, is it a necessity? And said, well, yeah, we did. You know, we did our homework, and we found out that a lot of folks that needed to use a ramp go into these buildings a lot. So we took that little extra money that our town had, and we put ramps in those places, and not once did anybody call us social justice warriors. We engaged on behalf of our society to make it better for people that needed to have the mobility ramps. We didn't cater to them, and it wasn't self-serving. We did it for the greater good of our township. Now, a social justice warrior would do the complete opposite, and they would say, oh, well, I did this for the people that needed it, and look how great I am, which ultimately becomes self-serving, as opposed to actually genuinely doing it for the greater good of the people of the township, no matter if they're handicapped or not, to bring equality for people to be able to go into said buildings of historic nature or newer nature, because they are our citizens of said town. Maybe a little off on that, but I'm hoping you guys understand what I'm getting at.
I think you forgot that if it would be social justice warriors, they would also have had a day in which no able-bodied people would be permitted in that building.
Very true. Very true.
I'd say the best way to sum it up is, as other people said, quality of outcome, and I guess, but also sort of controlling people's behavior, as in, or having the notion that, you know, a certain behavior is right or wrong, but mostly, possibly this is the most thing, is the personal is political, which is, you know, basically the slogan of all the 60s and 70s radicalism crap. So it's basically a sort of continuation on from that, but, you know, more modern, with more modern ideas, with all the, you know, the gender bending and all that.
Yeah, I like it. You know what you said there, that there does seem to be a Puritan streak to them.
Yeah, that's definitely puritanicalism, and it is, as lots of people were saying, it is sort of as if the Christian conservatives, the original puritanical Christian conservatives who used to, you know, condemn violent video games, have now flipped and are now being condemned by the complete opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
a lot of things have just been flipped round in the last 2 decades.
I mean, you now show someone from the social justice movement a photo of a page 3 girl, and they all go apoplectic.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you all right now, when I think of SJWs, that's what made me think of this. This Griffin woman, man, come on. If you want to break her rice bowl, in other words, if you saw, I don't know, I was just Corey Lewandowski. I was just watching Trump defend him and saying, "Hey, listen, because he bumped this, you know, he did grab this reporter. She was grabbing at the hopeful nominee for Republican candidate for president. He wasn't president then, but she was grabbing at Trump. And this guy Corey, kind of his job, you know, was like, "Hey, ma'am, you can't do that." And she tried to. Well, I don't think that his rice bowl should have been broken any more than Mrs. Griffin should. I don't think CNN should have fired her.
Her rice bowl shouldn't be broken.
No.
But at the same time, she is a terrible human being, not because of specifically what she did, but because of the aftermath.
That could be an outcropping of it, though, Tigerson.
We do need to point this out, though. You know, she went on. She did her little apology video, which wasn't actually an apology to Trump. It was an apology to the offended bystanders. And then she's done this tearful press conference thing where she was, you know, "I did apologize."
Well, I'm trying to be careful, too. What I'm saying is, y'all were talking about equality of outcome or equality of opportunity. So she has the equality of opportunity, and if this thing has affected it, so be it. But do you really think that the company that fired her, wasn't it CNN? Do you really think they wanted to fire her? Or were they just going for the outcry and saying, "Oh, we got to fire her," you know?
Well, if they genuinely, if the people that were, if say that, I don't know, the people that run CNN were themselves sort of put out by what she did, then I'd say they
It's fine.
if like there was a sort of board of directors or something at CNN.
They weren't, though, mate. They weren't. That would be like saying, was the board of directors at Fox not unhappy with it? Because the board of directors at CNN were fine with that.
And they all voted and said, "Yes, we find this disgusting. We don't," obviously, then maybe they would have a case for firing her. But
then she shouldn't be fired, because I think everybody here knows that the board of directors, as you say that, my brain is exploding. I think of Glenn Beck in the old days when he'd be like, "Get out your duct tape because your brain's going to explode. You know, your head's going to blow up."
That's just a phrase that came for. Sorry, what?
No, I was gonna say, isn't it really, no matter whether she should or should not have been fired, the fact that what she did was really very low tier and, you know, no intelligence.
She's a low tier bitch. Look at all of her spiel.
No,
most of her shtick. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I understand, Ogre. Let me finish. My point is the fact that she still didn't apologize to the average person or the president, and that no real accountability or responsibility is being held here. That's my main point.
If companies want to fire her, and because she's given herself a reputation now of being a psychotic bitch, So she deserves to be fired, and if she's looking to be hired somewhere else,
Squatty Potty fired her. Squatty Potty, a thing that helps you squat while you poo. I mean,
Are we still talking about Kathy Griffin?
Kind
Yeah,
of.
we run it back to
Sorry.
that.
My fault.
All right. No,
Gentlemen.
it's fine. She's
Gentlemen, we have a
she
question from
volunteered-
the audience. Sorry, we have a question from the audience here, and I believe it's necessary for clarification. So Suzanne is asking, I got the impression that the photo was part of a video. Is that right?
Yes.
So did it have some context? So the question is about context here.
Well, when it comes to context, there was no further context in the video. So basically, all she did was hold up the head, and I think she dropped the head, and so basically, all that happened in the video was different poses of her raising the head. So as such, there wasn't any spoken text within the video. There weren't any threats within the video.
Okay,
it was really just a moving version of that image.
She's just taking her cues from Shia LaBeouf's recent art projects. This isn't new. She did it to get
She
some
ain't
publicity.
Harry
to
Hamlin.
get some hype.
She ain't Harry Hamlin in a Clash of the Titans. She needs to get over that shit.
I'm going to just jump in and answer for what I think social justice warriors are. Social justice warriors are cry bullies, radicalized cry bullies. People who just want to cry for the sake of other people who aren't there to cry for themselves and continuously yell that you're bullying them and in turn bullying you for it. That's pretty much it. I don't think it even counts or matters which side they're on or how they're doing it or where they're doing it. They're just going to sit there and cry that they're being oppressed, or at least someone else is being oppressed and they're offended on their behalf.
For the people who say that social justice warriors have just become stupid, low-hanging fruit and there's no point in paying attention to them, well, if you have people like Anita Sarkeesian, who gets a platform at the UN to say that online harassment includes saying, "You're a liar, you suck," to someone online.
Right, and if the UN takes her seriously, we know the UN.
These people have influence. These people have power, and they have the ability to, Emma Watson's crap at the UN with he for fucking.
That's exactly where I'm getting with responsibility and accountability.
These people have power, and these aren't just crazy people who you just laugh at. Some of these people have power, and they certainly have power on, universities and stuff. And then you have Justin fucking Trudeau. Jesus Christ.
Well, there's a lot of people that would say that they were totally against social justice warriors, and what y'all just described, I just saw it firsthand myself. And so, I mean, it's like if someone is like over something and someone is still like, bah, 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 you're horrible, blah, blah, blah. To me, it's like cry bully is the one that stuck out the most, Loki. Because it's like, are you cry bullying somebody? If you are, you're probably a social justice warrior, need their nappy changed little baby. That's my opinion.
I wanted to comment on one emergent property of SJW, something that both Zero and Tigerson touched on lightly, in that they have some pull in countrywide, basically pull or strength or influence, and the emergent property. This is not something that they actually want or create, but it comes naturally. Is that they are authoritarian. So here's the group of people that have a lot of influence, and they count as a lot of voices in the nation, and yet they are very authoritarian. They really want not something that Zero described as a community-driven solution for a small town or something. Instead, they want to impose their own ideas over huge swaths of population, basically countries or perhaps even globe. And this is where I see the most danger in that. Basically, those people don't mind having some strongman in power, perhaps even dictator, as long as he's doing their bidding or even paying lip service.
They always pander to some figure of authority eventually, don't they?
Well, one thing that sort of struck a chord there when you said authoritarian was that they seem to try to not change society, but to change the mind of the government, and then to seek to introduce laws which the goals of which are then to change society. So, whereas, well, yes, I know it doesn't, it shouldn't really work that way. But whereas most, how shall we say, most reasonably minded people would think that the government ought to reflect the society it represents. To their mind, the government is there to lead society onward to some kind of, sunlit upland. So basically, to their mind, we should introduce laws which change society. I remember several laws having been introduced here by governments, both Labour and Conservative, which were kind of preceded by the words, "This is to send a message to society." And you just sort of think, that's a very, very scary wording right from the start. So we are introducing this law. We will lock people up who do whatever it is we are prohibiting. And this is in order to send a message to society, which is clearly that kind of social justice spirit, but it shows how it is being enacted. One is not actually setting out to change the mind of society, because that means actually getting out there and persuading people. So instead, one is concentrating one's efforts to, in a way, lobby the very few who are at the top and win them over. And then one then seeks to introduce laws which are then forced upon the masses, whether they are persuaded or not.
The thing with these, but these sort of more extreme, sort of frothing of the mouth, lunatic SJW types, they are not the majority. They do not represent a majority. So when they pander to authority to say, "We demand you make laws to stop offensive speech" or whatever, they are not the majority. I mean, it's like with Jordan Peterson, something he brings up constantly. I have received 34 letters from transsexual people, 33 of which are in favor of me. So it's just...
But they will always try and make a moral argument. I mean, wasn't there was it the wife of the preacher on The Simpsons or whatever, the one that always, eventually at some point, will not someone think of the children, And it's always that sort of argument that eventually they bring forward. Will not someone think of the children? Will not someone think of the women? Will not someone think of the homosexuals? Will not someone think of the transsexuals?
Let me just jump in.
We got through the war by all those posters, which were sort of, using the possible victimhood of women and children in order to sort of push morale in people.
Yeah,
like that was a way we got through the war in a way. But it's just a case of, we know we are more moral than you, or that's what it comes down to. We know what's moral, you don't. It's just...
There is also this very neat...
That is the fundamental of it, really. Sorry, Mark?
Yeah, there is also this very neat phrase they tend to be using once in a while. We are on the right side of history. That's what they say. Yeah. And they really believe it.
Yeah, the Nazis believed it too.
Or as Anna Kasparian would say, "I'm fucking better than you."
That was a pretty good little simile there. So I got to say this, and I'm asking everybody in the chat. I think a lot of people out there. Cole Pyle put it to me this way, and it was so cool, man, that I'll never forget it. He was like, basically, Ogre, you're like the band at the bar, you folks talking. Because, we hear what you're saying sometimes. Sometimes we don't. But we're there at the bar actually talking. I thought that was kind of cool. That's nice. Pretty groovy. So anyway, being the band, I got to say that Britisher, in the next hour, the first thing I want to ask, until some people get some questions, because you mentioned something, I tried it by myself. It was like just answering questions from the chat. Doppelganger's always trying to get that to roll. This guy, Rob Bowes, he asked, Britisher, why did you vote Remain? And then as you can see right here, I said the truth. I
voted Remain, yes.
And I'm not, this is no secret.
Unsubbed.
You know that I, but you know that I this is no secret, Britisher. You've mentioned this in public before. It's not like this.
How could you?
No, this is well known. Yes, I mean, I very early on, I actually
disappointed.
Some people may have seen the video I made in which I addressed Thunderfoot, in which I said, look, we both voted Remain, but at some point you have to let it go. The idea that you're still fighting the battle just seems not to make sense, because your own people have moved on. They have made a decision. If you are standing against it, then you are actually standing against the popular will.
Or not really helping.
Why did I vote? Why did I vote Remain? There was, I mean, obviously in such cases there are several reasons. I mean, one of them was just the risk. But one of my chief worries, particularly, was the integrity of the United Kingdom, because to my mind it was obvious that there was immediately going to be a challenge from the Scottish nationalists. And my view was, you do not bring about such a question when your opponent is at his strongest, because it's quite obvious that you know, the Scottish nationalists in Scotland will wane again. But you don't go into a fight against them at the very point in which they command 53 seats out of 56 in Scotland. That is the strength at which the Scottish nationalists currently are. So, to my mind, it was very, very high risk to go after Brexit at the very moment when the Scottish nationalists had already made it plain that they were going to play the independence card again. So that was my chief worry. Because to my mind, it was more important that the United Kingdom held together than whether we were in the European Union or not.
Yeah, and I think you already mentioned
I was never a great fan of the European Union, and I always felt, look, there will be other chances to leave. But if you break up the United Kingdom, you won't be able to put Humpty Dumpty back together again.
And you have mentioned this. You've done a whole video on this. So, Tiger, if you've got like one follow-up, but we're gonna play a little game here. Yeah. Doppelganger has some things probably together from the chat, and what we're gonna do is one question, one answer. So as he fires these, and it'll be completely at Doppelganger's discretion. So he may ask the same person 2 questions in a row. I don't know. I have no idea what he's got. He may ask whatever. He may go down the line, ask in order. But one question, one answer. So whoever he calls on, it's not for all of us. But if somebody on the panel, of course, has a burning thing to follow up, go ahead. I'm not going to be like the vicious schoolmaster. But let's see how many we can get through, folks. Shall we do that?
Sure, go for it. Can I just very quickly follow up?
Yeah, really quickly, Tyg. Only because I love you.
I'm not gonna like. No, it's fine. I didn't mind that much. Well, yeah, I've never actually heard that perspective before. I guess from Remain. I mean, I did hear some, more rational arguments from them, but I'd never heard it strictly in terms of Scottish independence. So yeah, but to be honest, the general idea was that this isn't something that, from what I could see, from what I could hear, that this isn't something that happens very often, that there wouldn't be another chance very soon. This is quite different from a general election. So that was, that
was your question, sir?
No, I was just following up what British was saying.
I'm just busting your balls. I thought you had a follow-up question. It's okay. Very good point. Very good point. Very good point, Tiger. I know you're tired, but the way I look at it is all the stress of final exams is off of you. So I gotta put a little on you because I love you, like you're my own boy. I love you very much. So anyway, let's roll on before I get too flowery and syrupy. What do you got, Doppelganger?
Right.
Hit us with your best shot.
We have a few questions from the audience, and first things first, our long-time viewer, Captain Colpile, thank you, Captain, is asking, do you think the Scots will ever vote independence, Brit? So I guess the question is aimed at Britisher.
Well, I think there is a significant risk, because particularly when you've got a Conservative government, the Scots aren't particularly enamored with the Conservatives. I know the Conservatives are making gains again in Scotland, but the overwhelming majority is hardly enamored with the Conservatives. I mean, I watched some of the stream of Count Dankula yesterday, and he was talking a bit about the past and Thatcher and the Conservatives and whatever, and you just got a bit of a flavour of just how powerful the name of the Tories in Scotland still is. So all you would really need is for some Tory government to make a few false moves, and you could have a serious kind of call for independence in your hands, and that's the overall problem. I would think it would be a crying shame to pull this nation apart after 400 years, and therefore you kind of have to kind of play it carefully, as far as I'm concerned. But basically, you've got this you've got this kind of peak of Scottish nationalism at the moment, and it's bound to wane because the Scottish nationalists are gradually showing themselves up for what they are. But you need to give it time to diminish before you immediately pose one of the greatest questions you possibly can to the entire nation, which then might pull it apart.
Meanwhile, I see AlphaGo is saying that recent Scots poll is at 60% against secession. In any case, I believe Tigerson, you also wanted to add something to it.
Yeah, well, I admit I am still a bit naive on a lot of this stuff, but in general, I think they should be given another referendum, just so that if the answer's no, then that will be a definite no. Because if they ask for a third one, then that's just a joke. But if it's yes, they can just get what they want. We can just please them, and if it fucks up, it fucks up, and just to please them, really, and just so they can, if it does turn out to be a disaster, they can finally see that it is a disaster. But I am still a bit naive on all this stuff.
And beautiful. I won't let it stay on one topic too long. So Doppelganger, I know you got something else.
Yeah.
Roll. And
Yeah.
I don't
Quick
care.
fire.
I don't care if it's for the Britisher again or if it's for Loki. Whoever, just keep it rolling.
We have a comment from AlphaGo. So AlphaGo writes, the EU recently said they would recognize Northern Ireland, fancy for secession, which is really dangerous. Gentlemen, your thoughts on it? Britisher Tigerson?
Does someone want to go first?
I don't really have much of a comment on this.
Okay, well, no, the reason I laughed when I heard that was, and I remember hearing that originally too, the reason I laughed was because as part of the Good Friday Agreement, which was kind of the basis of the peace agreement between the Catholics and the Protestants and the IRA and the paramilitaries and all that in Northern Ireland, one of the points was that the Republic of Ireland basically changed its constitution so there was no more claim for Northern Ireland. So they no longer lay a claim to that part. Now, the reason that raised a chuckle at the time was because Ireland simply couldn't afford Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland, due to its history, has got a massive benefits bill. It needs a lot of financial support, due to the fact that, industry for decades didn't settle there because it was likely to be blown up. I mean, most people in Britain would more than likely be surprised to know that before the Good Friday Agreement, there wasn't a single supermarket of Tesco's or Asda's or, in Northern Ireland. That these chains simply didn't want to go near there.
The risk was too high, I guess, for them.
So in that regard, the bill for running Northern Ireland is tremendous, not only in terms of the security apparatus that still needs to be maintained because, the real IRA is still going and there are still some paramilitaries hanging around. So
what? I'm sorry, I don't want you to hang up on that, but I'll look into it later. I don't want to derail you.
Yeah,
I did not know that they were still anything.
Oh, no, they are. The real IRA are still, so basically the IRA have basically called it a day. So they are still hanging around in the shadows somewhere, but they've handed in their weapons officially. We don't know if we've got all of them. But there has been a splinter group, and they call themselves the real IRA, and they once in a while still blow up a bomb.
Damn it.
I think it was like 30 dead last year.
To be honest, I really wouldn't know. That sounds
I was looking at the
an
terrorist
awful
map
high
now.
figure, to be honest, 30.
It was comparatively small to the 1600s. No, not 16.
But
16,000
generally the idea of the bill of Northern Ireland is quite substantial. So the idea that Northern Ireland would go independent and would become a part of the EU, you would just go, well, yeah, fine, but who would pay for it?
Who's paying for it now? Germany?
Britain.
Well, time to leave.
That's a nice one. We have a quick question from Jenny Access. Hi, Jenny. Aimed at Britisher. Do you think Wales can drop their ties to the Labour Party?
I think to a certain extent that is already happening. I mean, you've got Plaid Cymru, the Welsh nationalists seem to be a bit on the rise, and I think even the Tories are making substantial inroads. So I think, as such, the Labour Party has only, I don't think they've even got a majority in the Welsh Assembly right now. I think they might hold something like 50% of the seats, but they haven't got, you know, that additional one seat to kind of give them a majority. I could be wrong there. But so I think in that regard, the idea that Wales could be painted red, which it clearly could have been in the past, because you have to understand there was massive steelworks and coal mines and things like that in Wales, and it was heavily unionized, and therefore, you know, it was very much Labour country. But sort of over the past decades, that has begun to wane, and particularly now, with Labour having reached such a low, it is now really questionable how long they will, you know, still be able to maintain themselves as kind of, you know, the big party in Wales. Because you have to understand, I mean, it began, the Labour Party's fortunes began dipping at the end of the Blair government. Then it went over to Gordon Brown, and it dipped further. Then came Ed Miliband, and it went further down. And now it's been Jeremy Corbyn, and it has descended further. Now, we don't quite know what's going to be happening at this election because the polls are all over the place. But you have to understand that, therefore, the trajectory of the Labour Party ever since the sort of peak of Tony Blair has been downward, irrespective of which leader they've had. So of course, that is also reflected in Wales.
Great. I guess it's high time we moved off the islands and to the wilder world. And we have a semi-serious question, I believe, from Joy Roy. So Joy Roy is asking, who do you think is who does Islam hate more? The Jewish people, the atheists, the apostates, or the polytheists? We know that Islamists have some ideas that, you know, some religions are closer to there or not. In any case, what's your opinions? And I believe we should start with Ogre, him being the closest of a representative to Jewish heritage here.
But there's no, okay, simply answer that. Whichever one is the biggest threat to them at the time. Is that fair enough to just say that and move on so other people can speak? Because I talk a lot. In other words, I would say polytheist, atheist, Christian. Well, you know, Christian and polytheist is usually the same unless they're Unitarian, whatever. Or Jewish, they don't care. Whichever one is the biggest threat at the time, they say they need to breed them out. Don't matter if it's Jews, infidels, whoever. That's everybody. Breed them out, kick them out, rape their wives while they watch and like it. They pay the jizya or they strike them at the neck. So I hope that was enough.
Yep, sounds like it. Zero, your ideas. Whom does Islam hate most?
Anybody that's not them or kissing their asses.
Basically anybody else than the crazy leftists at this point. Loki?
I'm going to have to assume it's the Jews, since most of the propaganda that they have, I've seen them go on about how everyone's an infidel, but it's also the Jews that control the infidel, according to them, is it not? Haven't the Jews infiltrated everything?
Yeah,
them and the neo-Nazis. They have a lot of things in common.
I see. Tigerson?
I'd say not atheists, simply because I'm not, okay, not all, but in general, I find atheism sort of tending to line up more with these sort of crazy left-wing types who are sort of Islam apologists. Not all atheists, obviously, not all atheists, but there's a sort of slight correlation, not causation, obviously, but not atheist, because I'd see them being more offended by someone following another deity than none at all, to be honest. So, yeah.
So something to the effect of an uneasy truth, right?
Well, either Christians or Jews, but not but not people who are sort of secular. Ogre, what are you doing?
Yes, Ogre, what is it exactly?
Is there a
The
picture of?
fuck are you doing, dude?
Yeah, it's a picture of somebody's face.
I
You're
was
the
showing
man.
y'all that I put a filter in the back of my doobies, but what that is I take a piece out of the zigzag paper, and then I roll it up in the bottom of the joint, and you can see the zigzag man's face in the bottom of my joints.
You're going
I was
to
just
smoke
showing y'all how fucking cool I am. That's all.
Great. Britisher, care to speculate whom Islamists hate most?
Well, I mean, hate is a strong word in that regard. But,
Not to Islam.
As, but as such, I mean, put it like this: it's entirely geographical. Because ask yourself this: to whom is, in which area of the United States are certain things a greater question? So, if you are living right on the Mexican border, you will more than likely be most concerned about immigration. If you live in Manhattan, you'll be afraid of terrorism. So in that regard, it's the same regarding Islam. So basically, those countries who more than likely border Israel, that is where the resentment towards the Jews will be highest. Much higher than, say, in Indonesia or some place like that. But in those places which border, say, India, or for the Muslims in India, polytheism will more than likely be quite high on that list. So in that regard, it very much kind of depends on which part of the Muslim world you're actually inhabiting and what their immediate rival is as far as they are concerned. So that's why I would agree with who just said that before, that the atheists more than likely won't be high on that list because they're not really a domestic rival to anybody.
That was me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and the countries you mentioned actually segue us nicely to the last question. So Neil DB, hello Neil, is asking, can West accommodate Islamism? And let's go with Loki this time. Loki, are you with
Wait,
us?
what was the question? Sorry, I
Yeah.
got distracted. I saw my name in the chat.
Sorry. Can the West accommodate Islamism?
Can they or should they? Those are two very different
Well,
questions. We can
I'm not sure if-
absolutely bend over and take it in the ass one bomb at a time. But should we? No. We should absolutely not at all. It's completely contradictory to every major principle we have, starting from free speech to just the ability to vote to separation of church and state. And,
Can I just interject a question here, just before you continue? Because I think it's important. What would we define as Islamism?
Well, they
It's
want
just what
to
I was
create an
thinking,
Islamic
yeah.
state. It's in the name, Islamic State, IS. They
Okay,
want
so that's
Islam
what
to
we're
control
seeing as
the
the-
world and to be the primary dominant religion.
Okay, yeah, so please continue. I was just wondering, what exactly just so we have the parameters of
Okay,
what you're
no,
talking
that's
about.
that's
That
absolutely
was-
true. Because if we just let them in, then they're going to want to establish Sharia courts. They're going to want to infiltrate our justice system, our political system, our every system. And we've seen what happens with countries that accept Islam. My favorite example is actually Iran, that was really, really Western until the Iranian Revolution, at which point they became what's it called, hijab-wearing people that are afraid of their government, and they are now run by some weird. I'm not sure what they're run by. Who's leading their country? Is that same guy that's been sitting there, and they have
It's
puppet
Ayatollah.
presidents?
It's
the
Ayatollah Khamenei, isn't it? As opposed to Ayatollah Khomeini, who was the one who led the revolution.
Yeah,
And I think they've got I think they've got some kind of supreme council that is made up of clerics.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, they each do. Oh, go ahead, Loki. Yes, it goes deep.
Nobody's quite sure what they do. That's the thing. They
Good
keep making
point.
declarations. The other half of my channel, Siggy, no one knows who she is, but she's around. Her family's Iranian. Her dad was actually part of the revolution. He fully regrets it now. He did not think it was going to go this way. But they have to tell stories around the table about how at one point they made sugar complete haram, and they're like, nope, sugar is no longer allowed. And just because it was a trade thing, they're having some trade deals. One of the countries that was importing sugar was like, Iranians can't go without sugar. You guys drink tea all day. And they're like, watch this. And next week they made sugar haram. And they're like, nope, no one's allowed sugar anymore. And then the trade
They
deals
use
are like,
honey or
okay,
something,
fine.
probably.
Yeah, they're like, use honey or something. And they're like, okay, so sure, fine, let's renegotiate this deal. And then they made sugar, they negotiated a much better deal now that they were starting.
Became halal again, did it?
Some
No,
people
no,
might not know what haram is too. Would one of y'all
No.
please just Loki tell them what haram means?
It's just like not kosher. It's kind of sinful to eat.
Can't use it.
Yeah, you can't use it. So later on that week, the same Ayatollah guy came out and he's like, okay, so we have a new declaration. Sugar in tea is perfectly allowed as long as you dip it. And they're like, there you go. Now it's allowed. And then they started importing sugar again. These religious Islamic states kind of have this weird thing, but no, we absolutely can't bend over to them. We can't. What was the question? What was the question specifically?
Yeah,
We accommodate
can the West accommodate Islamism? I guess the gist of the question is basically, can the West accommodate and still remain West as opposed to being overrun?
No, not in any sense of the word.
Conscious Caracal. And also, folks, remember, we don't only have to answer questions about Islam and whatnot. We can also answer anything that someone would answer. In other words, you can ask the Britisher, Caracal, Loki, everyone here, anything you want. If they don't want to answer it, the only thing they will do is say no.
Just
so go
just
ahead,
a
Loki.
fair
You were
warning.
just about to wrap it up. What up, Caracal?
Just a fair warning. I just got back from the pub, so I'm pretty drunk. But like,
You'll be
awesome.
fine,
Continue
Caracal. I've
as
been
usual.
sober for 12
It's
days,
o-
mate.
it's okay,
so
man.
I'll put it.
Congratulations.
I just paid
That's
the piper
that's
for you.
very impressive, Ogre.
I'm a
like,
little tipsy too. Don't
kudos.
worry.
I even have like the stereotypical hiccup of like the cartoon characters when they're drunk.
You strike me as a guy that could hold your booze and never be any different than
any
you are.
one
any
of
other
you
time.
ever seen
That's a very accurate description, Ogre, because you're pretty well at summing up people.
talking about hiccups when drunk? Has anybody among you ever seen the sketch Dinner for One?
Oh fuck, I have.
Because yes, it's this, not now, of course, but perhaps later on. When this stream is over, it might be a good thing to check that out on YouTube. It is just called Dinner for One,
Right.
and it is one of the funniest sketches ever recorded.
I could also highly recommend it. It's fucking funny. It'll definitely get you to a belly laugh. Definitely.
So since we'll wait for other questions, and Dop, I don't know if you had any. I didn't look on the side chat, but listen, folks. Like I said, ask us some questions, man. I want to kind of try to do this. Help us out while you're
Can
over
I-
there in the bar. Yeah,
Can I
and
just quickly-
sure you can, but well, go ahead. What are the pubs like in South Africa, mate? Are they like really? What am I going to try to say? Because even if you go to a individually owned bar, like the pub that I like the most, it looks almost just like Applebee's, or it's very the same thing. They got stuff. It's the same.
No, man.
They will
You just need to
contain-
know where to go. In South Africa, if you find the right bar, it's the perfect like environment for
Tell
anyone.
us about the pub you
to
just
have a
came
good
from,
time.
mate, if you will. Tell us about the pub without naming the name or whatever. Just tell
I
us
just kind of
what
came
was-
from a pub. I'm not gonna name any names, but like I don't prefer like clubs because then you can't get drunk and talk to people. The nice thing about the pubs I prefer are the pubs where you can get drunk, but you also can get why you get drunk. So that kind of
You can
adds
hear
like
yourself.
a new dimension
You can
to
hear yourself think.
it. Exactly. No, it's all about preference. It's about finding the right pub where you can get to know people, but also can get drunk and get
So
drunk
what
at the
I'm
same
trying
time.
to guess is sawdust on the floor. Is there a bathroom in the place?
wooden
Does it smell
floors.
like urine? You know.
Wooden
Sawdust.
floors and terrible toilets,
Pubs have you
but
been to?
like not sawdust. No,
Okay. All right. Well, that
But
was
but
my
like
question. That was it.
you
That
can
was
get
mine.
some strong booze and you can get wasted drunk, and they won't throw.
He wasn't even joshing us there, Britt. You hear that? He's like,
I can guarantee that
I'll
these,
be jiggered.
I've got a serious case of the hiccups right now.
I
I
guarantee
just
that
walked
these-
home.
That's funny.
I guarantee
to me.
that these
Anyway.
pubs in South Africa won't contain regional Yorkshire ale, so obviously they won't be very good.
Oh man, then they're inferior.
Well, when I
Nah,
look at the
man.
Britisher, I think of South India Pale Ale, and if
Oh,
I
I love an
was to-
IPA.
yeah, if I was to ever crave a beer, it would be one of those. And let me tell y'all, you can't get non-alcoholic beer. It's just not forget about the buzz feeling. But you know what? There's other things in life too. I just wanted to know because there's places around here where I will still go. I'm giving myself a month before I try to even tempt myself with going to getting a burger in a place where I know folks and they serve booze and whatnot. But there are a couple places, and the main ones, like the one, man, this guy slow smokes the beef brisket for 24 hours, Britisher. I'm just thinking about it, my mouth just watered. You know, he hangs up brisket on hooks in this giant smokehouse and has it at about 180 degrees with smoke rolling in there. Like I just recently tried to do and destroyed a whole batch because I was bragging about it online.
Meanwhile, we've got a nice picture from Britisher of an exemplar pub in UK. So would you please present?
Yeah, look at that. That's beautiful.
Yeah, I just basically sort of just went looking for some British-looking pubs, and
it's
that
called
one just
the White
struck me. And I
Lion.
thought, well, this is sort of what a pub looks like in this part of the world.
But what I want to know is because the cool ones that I know too, Britisher, there's two things that very much factor in. I'll say three things that very much factor into the factor for me. Ambiance. Does it look like somebody hung up a bunch of motorcycle parts and stuff on the wall in unison like they did every other or is it like something cool that you go into? Food, do they have something that you can ingest and you don't want to go and die? And the price, because the joints I know of, man, you can still get, there's places I know of, Britisher, where you can get a pint of ale for 25 cents. Out of the tap?
Yeah.
25 cents. And most places, even out of the tap, just like the swill that they pour, it's you're paying anyway. So how is that place? If you were to walk in there and to say just get a Coca-Cola, or a what do you call it, the seltzer with a twist or something? How much would that be? $5?
I could well imagine you'd pay about £2 for something like that. So
$3.50, $4.
You'd be about in $3 territory.
Yeah, and that place does look nice. Don't get me wrong. I go to places in Louisville, Kentucky, man. If you order a shot of Maker's Mark, and don't get me wrong, they'll pour 3 fingers in a shot glass. I mean, it'll be a quarter of a pint at least. They pour it in there, but it'll cost you $15. Whistling Pig is a Scotch that I used to like. Man, that stuff right there costs you $55 a shot, Britisher. Anyway,
Guys, can I just?
And I don't think that's cool. Yes, anything.
We've got a question from the chat from Nil DB. Sorry, I don't know if I pronounced your name right. I'm sorry.
Nil.
Is life worth living?
What life? Hang on. That's the question? Somebody else take that if it's what I thought it was.
And I'd like to follow that up because that reminds me of a television advert I saw for Heat magazine in the UK, which is like a shitty gossip magazine. And the slogan of Heat magazine was "Makes life worth living." So my answer is Heat magazine.
Ogre,
That's very profound. That.
Yeah,
Ogre, please tell me, how many days do we have to answer this question? For how many days can we run this stream to give the full answer?
We only have 8 hours, don't we?
Ooh.
Oh, this is going to be gone. I've got a half hour left. In fact, 33 minutes I'm looking right now. And I'm done, folks. I got stuff to do. My little woman is actually out back right now planting tomato plants. Not even kidding. And so as soon as I'm done with my 3 hours, that's why I cut it back, Doppelganger. I do my little thing on Sunday, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So I can try to give a solid 3 hours of fun time with my friends and for other people to enjoy. But come on, with the questions, man. Whatever. Give me the questions. I'm stoned out of my mind. I'm enjoying my break. You know what? This also helps me in so many ways. I don't, I'm not going to go through all of them. But some people, in order not to, to kill the megrams, they do this, that, and the other thing. This is one of those this, that, and the other things I do to keep my hypos doing right and to kill the megrams.
So I see the ultimate question from Captain Coalpile of life, the universe, and everything.
42.
I believe 42.
42.
Move on.
Yeah, the only fitting answer.
All right, Magic Thighs, go ahead.
I mean, is it only this time? Is it only this time? I don't have anything, really. I'm out.
Oh, well, I got a couple.
It's terrible.
Someone on the panel must have something, or we will continue, or I'll just leave.
Like a question.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
anything.
of course, life must be worth living, because if it isn't worth living, then we're all reduced down to the same status of those terrorists that see it as so void that they would blow themselves up without a care.
My point is, if life isn't worth living, then why are you still alive? Like, you could, being a human and being preferring the less effort in making decisions. Why don't you just kill yourself? It's the easy way out, and
Well,
then you can spare yourself some effort if you
and
think life
Carrickle,
is not meaningless.
as a Boer, I mean, you know, a small oppressed group of people, you know, discriminated against based on your race. Why don't you just give up and move out, man? I mean, you know,
Because South African is the only heritage I have. Like, if I'm not South African, I'm nothing. I'm much more attached to my personality and my identity as a South African than I am to being my heritage of being European. If I give up my South African heritage, then I give up my identity as a person.
This actually ties. Sorry, go ahead.
Have you ever visited anywhere outside of South Africa? You probably have.
I've toured through the whole of Europe. Yeah.
Uh-huh. And if nothing clicks with you, or that's fine, you know.
I mean, most of my ancestors come from France, Netherlands, England, and Germany, and I visited all those countries, and I don't feel at home there. I feel at home in South Africa. The people.
There was no angelic choir that sung out when your foot touched the soil of Great Britain.
Interesting story. One of my ancestors,
I think that they fucked y'all up, Britisher, a little bit. Go ahead, Karen.
On my mother's side, one of my ancestors, he was on his way to New Zealand, and he kicked the captain's dog, so they threw him off in South Africa, and he decided to stay. So if that didn't happen, I wouldn't exist.
That is so funny.
That is one way of deciding where to settle.
Yeah, no,
the butterfly effect.
I started looking into the Boers, and you know, I'm not going to get too deep into it. I just figured since he's had a couple, I might prod him a little bit, because they are some tough sons of bitches, Britisher. And you know, we think, and
in the words of the British Empire, they are the most formidable warriors they ever faced, the most determined soldiers, and fucking even South Africans, Afrikaans Boer South Africans describe themselves as weeds. You can't wipe us out. We'll always come back. We'll always find a way.
Weeds. You said weeds.
Weeds. Yeah. As in,
You
you
guys
can't
are
wipe
like a
us out.
batch of bad comic books, is what you are.
Well, I've read that quote that you gave me from Arthur Conan Doyle a few times.
Yes, it's beautiful.
Very, very brilliant, and you know, that's what made me want to start looking into your people, because if you were here in the United States of America, I've never seen your face, and I don't care to unless you ever want to show it. I don't do that. But you I'm assuming are a similar color to me.
Yeah,
and,
I have a similar
if you were
beard
here,
as well.
you could write on your application here in the United States African American.
I could.
Yes,
yeah.
and he could technically get away with it.
Get away with it. He wouldn't be lying. Get away with what?
I mean,
he would be,
I've been
if he moved here, he'd be
my
African American.
family in South Africa since 1688. So it's 9 generations.
9 generations. How much more African could you gotta be? How long? I mean,
I personally feel more African than European. Just like looking back at history. This is where my roots are, and one day I will be buried in the African soil.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, because it's the same soil that raised me, the same soil that nourished me, and the same people that raised me will one day put me in the ground. Yeah. I can't leave this continent. It's part of me.
Yes.
Do you have oppression points then?
What do you mean?
Just of any kind, whether it be race or whatever.
Well, yeah, they discriminate in South Africa according to race when it comes to employment, but like that's the the extent.
I guess in the Western context, I meant oppression point, but yeah, obviously in South
Africa. If it's anything, if it means anything, I'm a minority. Being white in South Africa, being Afrikaans, not English, means I'm a minority within a black-ruled country. So there's that.
So do you walk up to black people and tell them to check their privilege?
Theoretically, I could.
To quote Ric Flair from wrestling, woo!
You probably get shot.
Woo!
I mean, that's what blows like social justice warrior minds is when I tell them, hey, yeah, I actually know what it feels like being a minority in a country ruled by a race that's not my own, and they don't understand that. That completely just like throws a spanner in their works, in their gears. Like they can't even fathom that.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to wrap my brain around. That's why I asked a question before this, and I think Doppelganger's got one, and I was pestering him. If you didn't see it in the sideshow, I was like, "Get more questions, Dop. Get more questions." So if he got something else, we can stroll on to something else. But all this stuff is fascinating to me, gentlemen. And the Boers, I have to say, when I found out that there are roaming bands of black people, this is just the facts. Don't nobody send me bombs. Send me all the hate mail you want, but don't send bombs to my house, please. But there are roving gangs of black folks that will just kill a Boer farmer and his family, rape the guy. What they do is what I read, Conscious Caracal, tell me if this is true. They would rape like the family members and kill them in front of the Boer.
Yeah, not even rape. They torture them.
Yeah, and hoping that he will kill himself because they know that most of them will be like, I couldn't do anything about it, and if they leave him alone, he'll just kill himself because he.
I think in the month of February there was 30 cases of like just farm murders where people went and just murdered farmers, not for any. They didn't rob anything. They just murdered them for the sake of torturing them and raping their wives. Like these are definitely.
Sorry. I mean that was good. That was a well placed hiccup because. I mean, you are a Boer. I mean, it's amazing that you can just say it like that and hiccup.
Yeah, and it's an issue, but I wouldn't describe it as white genocide. Like they're not wiping us out. It's just it's definitely a lot of the attacks are racially and politically motivated. So that's why I'm glad.
Help us understand the scope. So 30 have been murdered, and you said in the last year, I believe. So
in 1 month.
In 1 month. So how many Boers are there? What percentage of that is that? Is that
there are. In terms of white people, there are 4.5 white people in South Africa in terms of the white race.
4.5 million.
4.5 million, yes. That's 10% of the population.
So I won't even lie. But how many of those are these people that are actually on farms like we're talking about, if you know?
I can't really give you the exact stats. I'm not that educated in terms of the exact numbers, but like the majority of farmers in South Africa are white. I would venture as far as to say 90 or 95% of farmers in South Africa are white. I mean, like large scale farmers.
One more quick one. So on the scale of horrible to nothing, does a Boer that is like a city dweller that has grown up around other colored folk and whatnot and is like whatever, does he have as much to worry about if he's, I don't even know how to put this because I'm trying to think of like what I'm imagining is a Boer that's grown up on a farm, but he's went to college and now he's a computer programmer and he drives into town. Does he face this kind of
no, it's mostly due to the large amounts of land that farmers own. So politically, that means they have a lot of power because they own a lot of land that could have been given to like the black folk. So according to political ideology, being a farmer means his farm and his land will be redistributed to the people of the country. So that's kind of their rationale when killing a white farmer. Is that the land will now be given.
Your chances of it are very slim, as you've already made it out.
I mean, I live in Cape Town, and the crime rate here, the Western Cape, the province or the state where I live, is nothing compared to the rest of South Africa. Like the rest of South Africa is pretty much much more African in terms of vibe and crime and.
So walking home from the pub tonight, when you were walking back home from the pub tonight,
I live in a pretty
have like your knife in your hand.
It's the danger is always there, but I don't have the same risk as, for example, someone living in a township. A township is like a small community where the impoverished people of South Africa live. So the area where I live is pretty safe. So I still carry my knife with me. I always keep vigilant, and people in my area have been robbed and mugged and murdered.
Well, I would probably share a picture with you. I showed the Britisher a picture. If you look out my back door, you can't really see the neighbor's house very well. It's about 2.5 miles away. And so when I'm thinking of where you're at, is that what I'm looking at? You're sparse. You're in the rural area, as we'd say.
I live in the urban areas of Cape Town, but urban, okay. Yeah, it's urban, but it's pretty safe, the area where I live in, but there are much worse areas.
man.
For example, the townships that I mentioned earlier,
Yeah, you
where
said
all
there's
the,
bad
the,
places,
the
good
impoverished
places.
people live. Yeah, there are places in Cape Town with regions in Cape Town that are inaccessible. Like if you go there, there's a guarantee that you'll be murdered or raped or robbed. Like,
Guaranteed.
guaranteed. The poverty and the crime rate there is so bad that if you go there as a white person, you will most likely be robbed because you look like a rich person, because they have the assumption that all white people have like a huge amount of money that they can just rob of them.
Okay, well,
So,
we see folks in Vino Veritas, so I do believe, I didn't even look at the clock, because I love Carrickle. He's always honest, but it's good to get a guy when he's just back from the pub, because you know you're going to get exactly the truth, man. That, you know, usually if you've had a few, you don't think about it much. So anybody else got some questions for my brother? I'm sure he'll answer.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Caracal. From what you described, I get a picture of kind of a class warfare or class struggle. So let me ask you this: am I getting it right? Is it about class, and is there any Marxist undertones, or is it completely independently developed?
Text, the South African government is a trinity, as in it's a trinity between the African National Congress, COSATU, which is like the unions of the workers, and then the South African Communist Party. So the South African Communist Party is basically part of the government here. So there is definitely a lot of Marxism, Marxist ideology in South African society, if that's what your question was.
I see. Thank you.
Yeah, so our government is made up of three parts, like I said, the trinity, which is COSATU, which is all the workers' unions and the workers. The ANC, which is the ruling party, the African National Congress, Nelson Mandela, whatever. And then the third part is the South African Communist Party. So the South African Communist Party is fully integrated into our government. It's not even like a secret or a conspiracy theory. Like they have a major influencing role in our parliament and our government.
And then AlphaGo
Okay, folks,
said,
if I can just interject, because I think I'll call it a day now. Okay.
Thanks, Brett. I got
Well,
about 19 minutes
see you
to go,
later.
man.
See you around, Britisher.
God save the Queen. Yeah, I got 19 minutes.
South Africa heavily relies on the welfare state framework. I think like out of 50 million South Africans, 12 million of them use like some kind of government welfare for children. So just to give you some perspective.
Dun dun dun! I try to send people as they drop out a little thing on Twitter that says thank you, nice show, and I was just doing that and I didn't realize there's so much.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Americans freak out when like the unemployment rate reaches like 6%. In South Africa, the unemployment rate, depending on how you define it, real or other rate, it's about 30%. 30% of South Africans are unemployed. That's a third of the population.
Meanwhile, I see that Tigerson has got something that he's been mentioning recently, the Worms game. Tigerson, is it the real deal? Is it the original?
No, but it was amongst the Worms games, and I just thought I'd play.
Well, this brings me back in time, because I used to play this with my old-time friend. Yeah, not years, decades ago, and it was a blast.
I also remember the Worms games.
You babies.
Like I'm old enough to remember the original Worms game.
Old enough too. This is like
this is the original.
I was busy making, doing taking care of my old age.
Well, I am in my mid-20s, so that kind of makes sense.
In my early 40s. But there was a game, when you said the Worms game, I thought of this game where there was a worm character. It was a scrolling world, where the screen scrolling screen.
Oh, you mean Snake?
No, he had he would start out with just a suit on. He would sometimes, one of the things is
Earthworm Jim.
Earthworm Jim, thank you.
Yep.
Who said that?
Yeah, I remember that.
Loki. It had to be Loki.
Yeah,
God of video games. Right away, and that was pretty ambiguous, Loki. I got to give it to you, because I was bracking my brains. Because there was another one called Battletoads,
Yes.
And Earthworm Jim and Battletoads.
I
I mean,
remember that.
bring
as
it.
well.
Nobody can beat me in Battletoads. I give them the big boot. Every
That
time.
was considered the
Okay.
hardest game.
Oh, Battletoads, bitch, please.
Love Battletoads, man. I beat that fucking game, and that was so difficult. I'll tell you what. There were some parts where you had to do. Anyway, everybody's played it, man.
Yeah.
There were some parts where you just had to memorize exactly when to hit the left, right, up, down, right, A, B. You know, and if you didn't have it perfect, you ain't gonna get through it, man.
And playing on a team didn't help either.
I love to go the verses, but that was
personal
derailed.
question. A personal
Sorry.
question for Ogre.
Yeah, go ahead.
You always describe yourself as like a veteran troll. Could you elaborate more on that? Like, when did you really like start becoming involved with the internet culture?
Oh no, not the internet. I mean, but I've been a troll since I was about 3 years old. I'm not going to say much more about that.
No, I was just curious about like your
Yeah,
interaction.
I was born a troll. There's some people that just like I tell y'all, man. Let me just say it one more time for folks that haven't paid attention. My personal hero, I started watching him when I was 5 years old. Is a guy named Andy Kaufman. Please, God, don't make me explain this again. Go watch his shit and try to guess what he was going to do next. People still think he's alive. So that's me. That's been me my whole life. I love to fuck around and joke. I like to do shit that you do not think I'm going to do. And so when I say troll, that's what I mean. Because I will say this: if someone is thinking about me past the point that I even remember their name, I win. And so I've won till this point right now.
Like me personally, I've been on YouTube since 2010, so I'm a 7-year-old veteran in terms of YouTube. So,
but you're not a troll, and you know what I mean because I've been around you and you've seen like things that I've done and how I interact.
I just always joke with people. I tell them one day I woke up and the internet happened. Like it was just like something that kind of invaded my life.
Speaking of which,
yeah,
go ahead.
No, I'm pretty much assuming that everyone on the panel had that same experience. It's just like one day you woke up and the internet happened. Like it was just there.
Well,
anyway,
it was quite the opposite for me, but
I've had an email since '98.
It was quite the opposite for me because basically, for many years I was aware as a young person that the internet was somewhere out there, but it was for various reasons pretty much inaccessible for me. And then I started slowly, trickle by trickle, or maybe rather drop by drop, getting some access to it.
I remember when I was very little, we had like the dial-up internet with like the sound effects and everything. Like,
wait, how old are you?
I'm in my mid-20s. Like
it was very gradual for me too.
That's interesting.
So I just we always had the slowest internet, and in South Africa, always after like 8 o'clock at night, you could have the internet for much cheaper. But when I was younger, you only used the internet for like student projects, getting information, not really for Facebook or like social media or YouTube or anything. So that only came into my life much later. The fact that you could go onto media platforms like YouTube and just upload and watch videos and listen to what other people have to say.
Oh God, there's so many iterations. Does anyone remember Morpheus?
I do.
LimeWire? Napster? Is Napster still a thing? I think Napster's still a thing.
I used to download music on Napster.
God.
We're having echo.
Who's echoing?
Me.
Oh, I guess somebody's back to trolling.
LimeWire, Kazaa. You could find all kinds of crazy shit on the internet back in the day. But to be perfectly honest, I still haven't gotten a full grasp of what the internet has to hold.
Yeah.
Every day
To
I'm still
me-
finding new interesting things.
To me personally, the internet only really became what it is today in like around 2012. That's when the internet really started to like pick up and start turning into the modern incarnation that it is today.
I believe actually we are having, in a way, second iteration of the internet in that although social media, they exploded at some point, but before that, there were a lot of things going on kind of in background, somewhat hidden from the purview of the wider public.
It's become more accessible. Yeah, it's become more accessible to the public.
Yeah, definitely. The sleek, easy to use modern websites are a completely different thing or completely different beast from
Actually,
whatever it used to be.
yeah. Coincidentally, the other day I watched this video on like how the normies are actually starting to unlock the potential of the internet and kind of invading the original outsiders that were the original like creators of the internet, invading their world, and kind of the internet is becoming more public and more inserted into popular culture.
Yeah, and actually this goes both ways around in that the pop culture itself invaded the internet just as well. Let's not forget all the celebrities that at some point started jumping on the Twitter and Facebook bandwagon. They basically pulled a lot of their fans along with them. So it was a very fast explosion.
I think
Kill
the
the
year
normies.
that the internet became the most like popular was 2016, when kind of memes became mainstream for the normies.
Well, and I'll tell you what there's certain
Memes were always a bit mainstream.
there's some celebrities that have gotten the power of it, and it personally happened to me. I sent James Woods a tweet of a video I did.
Oh yeah, you told me.
I mean, well, I've told everybody. I put it on a video, man, because it was so cool to me. And what ended up happening? I've been thinking about it, and he still follows me. I think if I sent him one now, in fact, I may try it sometime soon. If I have something serious to ask him, I'll send him a DM and see if he responds. But is that because I'm so cool? I don't think so. I think there are some celebrities like our president, Donald Trump, James Woods, that they understand the power of when you see, because the first thing I sent him, Caracal, was about some movies he's been in that nobody's seen but me and 25 other people. You know?
Yeah, that struck a nerve, maybe.
Yes,
That
and
like,
he was like, "Oh,
got his attention."
And he saw that I was someone he could have an impact on, and that if you know what, see what I mean? Putting me in his circle served him. And so this is an intelligent thing that these people have done.
But that's the miracle of the internet, is that you can be connected to celebrities. I mean, my tweets on Twitter, some of the celebrities that I admire have reacted to some of my tweets. For example, my guilty pleasure is the show Gravity Falls, and it was created by Alex Hirsch. And once I tweeted something not connected to Gravity Falls or anything of his works, but he reacted to it. And then I just realized that like the internet gives you this access to your celebrities and your heroes. For example, when
anybody can say anything right here, but you can see right here it says James Woods, the real James Woods.
He follows you, right?
Follows you.
Yeah,
yeah.
That's
I'm one of. He follows 4,600 people, which is a lot. But when you look at that, 665,000 people follow him. That is a small percentage. I'm not going to go through the list, but there's a few people. There's a few, famous people that do follow me, and I don't know why, bro. Other than I do, if I like somebody, I like them, and there is a way that you can say to people, "I like you," and show them that I've liked you for a long time.
Yeah, but when that person follows you, that's like a compliment to you.
Oh, man, it was, dude, I'm not even going to go through my DMs.
Like, okay, I can imagine.
I asked him, and he said I could share them. I did share them.
Your ego. Yeah, that's
James
just like
Woods is probably the, in fact, I'll have to say it, of the celebrities I've never met face to face. So Sargon, anybody that I know, he is the coolest. Because, dang, I don't even know how else to say it. Probably because I like him the most. That's it.
But like, fuck, Ogre, you can actually admit to people and you can brag to people that you have been on the stream with Sargon of Akkad. I mean, I can also tell that to people. When I told that to my brother, he just freaked out. He was like, "What? How the fuck did you get on the stream with someone I admire?"
It draws attention to the fact that I threw him like 3 balls, and he just, every one of them was like,
But that's why I just want to say, like, thank you for giving me that opportunity. Like, that's one of the highlights of my life. Just like
you
being
did
on
good
the stream.
You really did.
And in live
I'm
time,
still waiting for
talking to one of my talking to one of my role models. Like, Sargon of Akkad has had like a huge influence on my political thought in the past 3 years. Like, that was a pretty surreal experience.
It was for me too, and I'm not. That's not why the balls that I threw him he didn't swing at. It's just because, I mean, I don't know, man. Just like earlier today, we had Loki and we had these people on, and when the British are and Doppelganger and everybody gets going on that European stuff, man, me and Zero Cooler over here going,
Yeah.
you know, like, what the fuck are they talking
Yeah,
about?
that's
I don't even know
why,
what the fuck they're talking about.
It's still sinking in that I was on a stream with Sargon. Like, it's still like I still struggle to believe that fact. Like, and that's why I uploaded that to my channel. Just
Razor
like,
Fist was the only one that I was nervous
Yeah.
over when he was there. I was
Yeah, but I know for a fact personally that you pretty much admire Razor Fist as a person.
Man.
Like, you're a pretty big fan.
Yeah, I'm a fan because there's subs and viewers or whatever. I'm a fan of Razor Fist. I love what he does.
Pretty cool guy though. I can understand why you are a pretty big fan.
I
Like,
actually just
he's
ordered a
definitely in my top
lambskin
10.
leather jacket. That's like a motorcycle jacket, and in homage to him. Because when I do a serious rant from now on, I'll probably do it on camera with that leather jacket on and my aviators. Because before I even knew who he was, I did the aviators. But you know, just in homage to that dude. Because I would say also that some people said it to me, which I think is ridiculous. But this is what I say to him: he is probably the most undersubscribed to person that I know of on YouTube.
Oh man, I always comment like under his videos, like, I can't believe you don't have more subscribers. Like
a
he's so
million.
talented, and he always, every video he produces, it's guaranteed quality. Like, I can trust that every video he produces will entertain me. It's
Top
just
notch.
that's great. Like, I can admire that. The fact that he will never upload like a video that disappoints me. They all will be like quality, and I can appreciate that.
And he gives credit
And
to the guy that sews the stuff together. But I'm sorry, Dop. Yeah, we'll probably just go on kissing his butt for the last 5 minutes we're going to be here. What's up, Doppelganger?
Yeah, actually, I just wanted to support you on the subject because I've been listening to the stream, and basically you guys threw at him the hardest questions I had ever on those streams.
Oh my goodness,
Maybe I
man.
missed something, and yet still,
Amanda
and
Wolfchild
still-
was banging it. In fact, everybody.
Yeah.
Child molester.
yeah, and
Not that
and
he is, though. I
was
must say
great.
also, but
Yeah.
good gracious, such bad luck. Not him, but the Michael Jackson thing. So go
Yes,
ahead.
exactly. Let's avoid the scandal here.
Yes.
In any
Yeah,
case,
he actually. Yeah, he
Razor Fist was
uploaded,
able
I-
not only to
found
give
quite-
thorough and thoughtful answers to it, but also he made them funny. The guy has simply unbelievable
He's a
talent.
very witty person, yeah. For example, his video on Michael Jackson, like, I don't agree with everything he says, but he still creates a top quality video with some very good points that I will acknowledge are pretty substantial and solid.
Well, outside of the Britisher, I'll give you all my top three. So my top number one was Razor Fist. Who do y'all think number two is? Of everybody that y'all know that I've had on as a special guest.
The Britisher, Nachi
No,
Free,
no,
or
not-
Sargon
well,
of
not-
Akkad.
Okay, you hit it with Nachi Free as my second. So somebody else guessed on my third. But Britisher don't count. Now he's like my co-host. So
Yeah.
because he would be
But
number
Nachi
one,
Free
to
is
be
the
honest.
second, like, that's what
So-
I guess,
So
yeah.
you just got it's Razor Fist, Nachi Free. Who do y'all think number three is?
That's a tough one. I would have guessed Sargon, but you seem to be implying that's not him.
Now Holly Seelger
Hmm.
is
I don't know who that is.
Yeah, Zune Politicon, Holly Seelger. She's number three. She's probably, in fact, she's right up there with Razor Fist, as in she's just trying to get over 1,000 too, folks. So go check her out. I'll find it. Real quick.
Where is my channel? Like 12.
Let me get it to you. Yours? No, I don't even. Dude, it's hard for me with you, Carrick. In fact, I don't do it. To me, you're like the Britisher. I can't rate you because then number 1, 2, 3, I'm not even gonna say it. Hell, Cabbage Patch would be on the top 3, and he don't even have a channel. He does, but it's nothing with that he does. It's just his channel. So I really can't rate it like that. I'm talking about people
I
that come on
understand
a
that.
special guest. You know. What I
Okay,
mean
so
too, dude.
just for our viewers, I'm dropping the link to Holly Sliger's
You did it.
channel
Thank
on
you,
the
Sal.
stream chat.
Beat me to it as usual. Yeah, and that's what I mean. Because like Doppelganger's another one. I couldn't even have a top 3 like that, because they're the top 3. There'd be like there'd be like 10 people that would go for number 1.
By the way, Ogre, tomorrow I'm gonna record and edit a video where I just state out like the purpose of my channel, the origin of my channel, and just give people an idea like what I'm here for and where I came from.
You
So
do a
expect
lot of
that.
good stuff, but you're short. You have some clips that are about 20 seconds. I'd have to look back. Very short. And man, you're good at that, dude. To me, the most difficult thing to do, in fact, there was my wife and I, we drove truck. We had a story that was about 3 hours long, but it was comprised of short stories written in, I want to say 500 words. And it had to have a beginning, middle, and an end, man. It had to be a story. And that is the most difficult thing to do. And what you did with a lot of the videos I've seen that you've done is you've done something in very short time. Makes a big impact. That's impressive.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about is like the nature of the Manchester attack video, where just like in 3 minutes, just give my short, sweet answer. Yeah.
Well, and that one was long for you, because I'm going back to like your old school. I've seen every video you've done, kiddo. I've seen every one. So I'm going back to the ones where you'd have Young Turk stuff, just like it would be like 15, 20. Let me go look. Very short.
Something I'm planning like a pretty serious video I'm planning in a few weeks is I'm going to do a video on pseudoscience, the philosophy behind what is real science and pseudoscience. And I plan it to be like one of the more serious videos on my channel in terms of like educating people. It's going to be like 30 minutes long, but it's going to be focused on some heavy philosophy and terminology. So it's for people that are really interested in that topic, or like the philosophy of science. Very relevant.
This is something that I'm gonna watch very carefully and with full interest. In that, recently you can see a lot of people trying to kind of force science as the only answer or the only solution to big
I'm gonna
questions.
I'm gonna mostly focus. Continue.
Yeah, basically, unless we actually understand the philosophy of science well, we cannot say for sure which answers we're getting from science are useful for what.
That's why I'm making that video. I'm going to mostly draw from Karl Popper and the philosopher Kuhn. I can't remember his name. And he wrote an entire paper on pseudoscience and what is real science. I'm basically going to break that down and paraphrase and give people a good summary of what real science should strive to be, and what pseudoscience today, kind of how to identify what is real science and what is just like an imitation that uses just like ad hoc responses and can't be refuted. For example, Marxism is a good example of a pseudoscience because it doesn't stipulate what is the requirements for refutation. For example, a good scientific theory is a theory of gravity. If someone comes forward with refutating evidence, then the theory of gravity has already stipulated what needs to be proven to prove itself wrong, but nobody has provided that evidence. Therefore, the theory of gravity still persists. But a pseudoscientific theory, like for example Marxism, stipulates that there isn't any refuting evidence. If you criticize Marxism, it's because you are, for example, blinded by your class, or you don't understand the theory. So Marxism is a good example of a pseudoscience because it always has an excuse for why you don't understand it, why you think it's wrong. Scientific theory always stipulates, if you give me this evidence or if you give me this rationale, then I will be proven to be false. But until that day, I will remain true or at least viable.
Yeah, the British is not here, so I'm not going to try to beat anybody out. If there's any last words, folks, say them now.
Can I just ask Caracol quickly about what he was talking about? Because I was you also going to sort of talk about in the context of normal science, because I think that's an idea from Kuhn as well, which is basically science that exists in a scientific paradigm, but it's sort of like science that's taught in schools, which is science that's not looking to be challenged or develop its methodology. It's just
it kind of has that inbuilt implication that it can't be falsified. That I think that's the point you're making.
Talking about scientific paradigms and stuff, it's all really interesting.
And that's why there's this quote from Karl Popper that I quote it in almost every stream, but it's one of my favorite quotes. He says, "The fool claims to possess the truth. The man of science simply pursues it." So we can't ever claim to possess the objective truth, but we should always claim or should always strive to try and achieve it, even though we know that we won't ever be fully capable of achieving the ultimate truth, but at least we should strive towards it.
Whereas
when-
from what you described, I would pretty much call Marxism in that regard being more of a belief system rather than science. In that it doesn't really fulfill any.
Well, it's an abstract political theory, isn't it? It's not.
Yeah.
It calls itself a science.
Yeah,
Yep.
political science, but that's also another debate whether politics can actually be condensed into an objective science, which I think it can't. I don't think it can be. I'm not of the belief that subjective sciences like social science and politics and economics that deal with people can really become an objective science.
And I want to let Carrickle have the last word right there, man. And this is why. We could go on for a long time, and there would be probably 12 to 20 people that would bounce in and out. I mean it. I think I could hang this up with the kind of people that show up, and if the same old folks kept coming in and circulating, I think it could go 24 hours a day. And probably because I don't know, not me for sure, but Carrickle, Loki, Doppelganger, Zero Cool, Tigerson, Britisher, the people that have been here are very interesting folks. Easy to listen to, y'all, is what I'm trying to say. But I'm also saying this is it, folks, so let me wrap it up this way. Disobedience to tyrants is obedience to God. If you have a certain belief or an idea in your head, and it's based on your life experience, it's not something you picked up yesterday in Gender Studies 212. Something that you've seen demonstrated throughout your life. Don't let that thing be changed. I would say to everyone listening to my voice, don't try to break somebody's rice bowl. If it's Kathy Griffin or, I don't know, there's folks that I don't like too much that are on the same platform that I'm on, go donate money to them if you know who I'm talking about without saying much else. They got PayPals and whatnot. Go give money. I personally don't think some folks are talented. The ones that I think are talented, I support. Would I stop supporting someone that doesn't line up with me now that I was once supporting based on their content? No. And there are there are examples of that in the world and in reality as we speak. Because if I like something you do, Kathy Griffin, or if I don't like anything you do, Kathy Griffin, well, I'm going to not change it based on feels. So listen, folks, be good to your friends, be good to your family members, be good to your loved ones. Be quick to say you're sorry. Be even quicker to accept an apology. Especially when that thing your friend, your family member, your loved one has done seems to be so huge, you'll never be able to forget about it. Because constant viewers, life is truly short. And at a time you think not, your friends, your family members, your loved ones, your life, your cause, and everything you hold dear will depart from you. Hey, Sydney Rough Diamond. It's too late and I gotta go plant some damn tomatoes, cucumbers, corn. I got a whole row of